Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit education or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. This video was made for entertainment purposes and is transformative in nature.
Hey, John, what do you want us to take away from this extraordinary series of yours?
Well, I want people who are not Latin to have Latin envy and wish they had been born Latin, and for Latin people to realize, damn, being Latin is a superpower, man. I mean, the things that we've suffered in this country, 500 years, our wealth was stolen from us. We were lynched. We were burned, shot alive. We've been the only American citizens that have ever been deported by the millions. And yet we contribute and we build and we thrive.
Various groups, feminist, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the black civil rights experience. Yes. What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated blacks like children, and many of their policies have been harmful to blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, I mean, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but that's, or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks. We done to the immigrants. We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country. Democrats are dropping the blacks and moving on to the Hispanics because they're a larger group of Hispanics now. But could I just say to Jorge, I hate to disagree with you when you're attacking President Obama, but I think the point on immigration is you can have open borders or you can have a welfare state. You cannot have both.
It was a great job in the heart these days.
You late again, Eddie.
Trying to do. You ain't gonna do it. See, Big Red done pulled my coattail to you a long, long time ago.
That's bullshit, Eddie. You're talking crazy.
Crazy like a mother fox. And you, I can see through your jive ass like glass, nigga.
Eddie, you got it all wrong, man.
Stealing my moves. My style, nigga. Even trying to riff like me.
Hey, man, why don't you get your boy out of here and detox him?
You on my spot, Flash? Slum-dwelling, scum-sucking, slug-ass motherfucker. You on my spot, Flash? Huh? Well, you ain't gonna get it, cause you ain't got it.
These kind of boys seems innocent, Boogie. Got everybody on the post thinking he's a strong black buck. White boys envy his strength, his speed, power in his swing. Then this colored champion lets those same white boys call him Shine or Sambo. And he just smiles.
Dream about the time when I was a little boy.
Can't talk. Can barely read or write his own name. And don't care. He'll tell you they like him. Or that colored folks ain't supposed to have but so much sense.
Yes, he would.
You know the damage one ignorant Negro can do. We were in France in the First War. We'd won decorations. But the white boys had told all them French gals that we had tails. Then they found this ignorant colored soldier. Paid him to tie a tail to his ass and run around half naked making monkey sounds. They Put him on a big round table in the Cafe Napoleon. Put a reed in his hand, crown on his head, blanket on his shoulders, and made him eat bananas in front of all them Frenchies. Oh, the white boys danced that night. Passed out leaflets with that boy's picture on it. Called him Moonshine, King of the Monkeys. And when we slit his throat, you know that fool asked us what he had done wrong. My daddy told me we got to turn our backs on his kind, Wilkie. Close our ranks to the chitlins, the collard greens, the cornbread style. We are men, soldiers. And I don't intend for our race to be cheated out of its place of honor and respect in this war because of fools like CJ. You watch everything he does. Everything.
You said your people have been fighting for 400 years.
Man, your peoples too.
So I just want you to explain what you mean by that.
You know what I'm talking about. Y'all all know what I'm talking about, man. Don't sit up here and try to bait and not know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what the I talk about when I say these things. Your people too.
Explain it. Not everybody knows what you're talking about.
Radio Raheem, I don't have to explain what's understood, man. You know what I mean by that. You know what I said by that. I ain't got to go further. And if anybody don't understand that, then God be with them. Go look up the history. Go look up the history. Don't everybody believe in Google? Go Google that. See what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, man. You know what. I dare you to sit up there and say, explain. You know what I'm talking about, man. His fighting people. You know we've been fighting 400 and still fighting to this day. To this day. To this day. You just sit here, you don't know.
And since the American white man has used his control over the press to rewrite history or retell history, and since the white man can't dispute this truth, it's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here, it's truth. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated, it's truth. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate, that's truth.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. I am your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is WeUpReport. Before we get into this, I got to give some thanks. Once again, I got to go out to Petruel Will again for his cash app. My family and I, thank you kindly, and as always, y'all like Metamucil, you come on time when Mr. Blow Your Mind needs you the most. We tip our hat to you. Another special thanks go out to Mr. Spencer 0620. Once again, brothers thorough, 100, him and Petruel Will. And I'm going to always give them their praise and their honor for what they contribute to this show that we call WeUpReport. I want to get them out there, give them their due roses and flowers. So some of you might have came over here. Again, this is the most hated show in the corner called WeUpReport. Happy to go down the aisle, see something to make you feel some kind of way. Remember, the motto of my show is the truth don't need no partner. So some of you might have clicked on due to the thumbnail. So we're going to go ahead and show that. As you see on your screen there, giving back what's yours. Let me say that one more again. Giving back what's yours. See, when you're giving something back that belongs to somebody else, that means that was someone possessed someone else's possession, right? Sometimes people have things you might have loaned them, might have taken from you, and you have knowledge that they got it. And so they make some kind of agreement they're going to give it back to you. So it's about returning what you hold or what you stole or some kind of control they got it to. It's time for them to let go of it, right? Giving it back can also mean to part some or limits or partial or portion or all of it. Okay, are there attachments? When somebody is giving something back to you, are there attachments that go along with it? Are there clauses that go with it? Is there a fine print? You know, sometimes there's a fine print to things that back in the days used to be like, if you don't read the fine print, that's where they catch you at, where they catch you slipping in the fine print. Manipulation inside of I'm giving you back should be quid pro quo, but then a lot of times, again, manipulation is in part of it. It's deceitfulness inside when somebody's trying to give you something back. Untrustworthy. Are they words as good as what again, like what they say, a contract with not on paper is good as the paper is not written on, right? When you have a no written contract, right? So if so, it can be not genuine. Can I be forthright? So when you let your yes mean yes and your no mean no, anything that says maybe is kind of teeter left and right, correct? So sometimes we can look at a situation and somebody say they're giving you something back, but when you're looking at these, what you see on your screen there, as we get into today's show, you're going to see they said about they're giving something back or want to give something back. But as I'm elaborating here, talking about terms and conditions can be with it, or really is it just what they say, sweet tongue, flowery words. They don't really mean what they say, but it looks good to the public. And we're going to get into some other things that's all tied into the theme that where I'm going to tread on as giving back what's yours is all about. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go into the topic that I seen here. Let me show you this right quick. Isaiah Washington says Ku Klux Klan members were some of his best teachers and neighbors. Let me say that one more again. Isaiah Washington says Ku Klux Klan members were some of his best teachers and neighbors, right? So some people heard him say this. And some of us taken aback, like, what you mean by that? It can cut two ways. Or is it possibly he could be trying to give somebody back what they try to give him? Could somebody be facetious in the way they speaking and people taking it out of or misconstruing the context of it? Or maybe sometimes when you see people get at a certain age and they're feeling like maybe their stance, because supremacy has this way of getting to people, getting at the core of them, and they start doing things to, let's say, ponder over and say, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. See, that's what happens when you fight so long, get to the point where you believe that maybe your stance is wrong because they don't have any give on their side. It's all about you giving up something in order to appease them. Let me say that one more again. A lot of times, those of us who take the fine fight and try to fight against what some may not detect and know what exists, those who've been fighting for a long time, sometimes when you give in, you capitulate a little bit and you, kneel to Zark is what they would say, right? So in the sense that I've seen some people who address this, and I want to, bring this to my show, let you hear what was said. We'll be right back. Check this out. Isaiah Washington says Ku Klux Klan members were some of his best teachers and neighbors. Let me say that one more again. Isaiah Washington says Ku Klux Klan members were some of his best teachers and neighbors. Isaiah Washington has revealed his belief that some of the best elementary teachers and neighbors he had during his childhood were also members of the Ku Klux Klan. The veteran actor, who has been open about his thoughts on race and other polarizing topics, recently shared his experience as a youth growing up in the southern, racially prejudiced environment on Instagram. The post, which include a black and white photo of which appears to be 3 generations of KKK members, were initially removed from the platform. However, Washington has since reposted the photo and an accompanying message that has yet to be taken down. In the post, the former Grey Anatomy cast member shared that it was commonplace for him and his fellow students to play with one another and visit each other's home, but that the racial boundaries were known on both sides. I had some of the best elementary school teachers and even some neighbors that I knew were Klan members back in Texas while growing up. I knew where they stood with me, and they also knew where I stood with them. The boundaries were very, very clear, and I still played with their kids. I just couldn't drink from their outside water hose or come inside their house to eat. Washington wrote that while he experienced racial prejudice during his childhood, the conditions of his own home environment were often superior to that of his neighbors and classmates. He also pondered if he and his own family goodwills towards the community had a positive effect on his classmates outside of him and his success as an entertainer. Their houses were usually much smaller than what I grew up in. The 60-year-old added, my mother never refused to let their kids into her house to eat summer lunch and drink from our vintage JFK water glasses. I can't help out wondering today if their kids are vigorously supporting me as an actor today, simply because I showed them love and respect as a true Texan and a true American. Even when their parents and grandparents forbid them to reciprocate love and respect for me publicly to me back then, but I am infamous now, I wonder. Isaiah Washington. So we are back, right? So again, that's Isaiah Washington, right? And so Isaiah Washington is the fourth in his family line. He's the fourth one. So there were 3 prior Isaiah Washingtons before him. So he comes from a long line of Isaiah Washingtons in his family, right? Man, he comes out of Houston, Texas, born about 1963. So he's somewhere between 59 and 60 years old. And a lot of people know for some of him being in Crooklyn, Clockers, Girl 6, Get on the Bus, Love Jones, right? True Crimes, Ghost Ship, Hollywood Homicide, and things like that, right? And so when you see somebody, again, he had been ostracized because he took a stance when he was on Grey's Anatomy that really kind of put him in the blacklist of those who would be pretending in Hollywood. And so he had always kind of had this stance that he stood on against some of the things, at least that's how it appeared. So when some people see that an individual was going to make the sense, said that the neighbors and best teachers were Klan's members. Now, some people would take that and say that Mr. Washington is taking a stance about maybe capitulating, backtracking, maybe has some regrets. And some people may take that. But could this also have a twofold cut? Can he be facetious in the way you saying this? Can he be saying that, well, best teachers, now again, for those of, he wouldn't be quite Gen X. He could be, depending if he's born in, well, he's 64, 63, so he wouldn't be he'd be like the baby boomers, right? He's the babiest of the baby boomer generation, really right before Gen X. And so he kind of be like a big brother to Gen X's, right? And so being of that time, coming up through the 70s and 80s, depending on where you're coming from, what geographical location you come out of the United States, you might have endured certain things coming through the 70s. Many of us who came from them time, we know that those things that a lot of times they try to only attribute to the 50s and 60s, in them 70s, the same thing was going on. So a lot of us, depending on what kind of schools and areas you lived in, you had teachers of other persuasion. Myself, I know for a fact, many of the teachers that I had in coming up, I believe a lot of them probably had some sheets in the background as well. Now, when he say best teachers, could he be talking about teaching you about the game about racism? Could it also be that way? Or is it really just, he said best teachers as trying to go along, get along? So sometimes the context may fool some people and it jumped out the window saying things, but again, only he can really give his, let's say, insight to what he was really talking about. So when people see that, some people were triggered by this. And so I say that, well, it's possible he could be saying that because he's taking a stab at him. Because we're going to see as I go on more to this show, there has been a rearage in the head because there's also the anniversary of those of the white, I think it's the White League, right, which is the white man's league. I think they're going on an anniversary. I think they established themselves April of 1870, something like that. They're going about 100 and something year as the beginning of them Klan. And as we will go in, there's so many things that have been happening. But he put this out there and they were talking about it, so he put this also, I guess, as the family, showing them, right? Well, I got some homies I'll be kicking it with. Is it all right? I'm kicking it with them. Look at this photo we got. You see what I'm saying, Dad? Is this all right? Do you think that Isaiah Washington would be cool if that was his daughter and they was all there like this with a picture and he's sitting with her? You think that Isaiah Washington would be cool with that? Isaiah Washington, who was born in the 60s, early part of the 60s, about 60 years old today, knowing as he does movies pertaining about history and the things and the stance he takes, do you think this would be appropriate? Do you really think that when he was talking about best teachers and he was talking about his best neighbors, that he was saying it from the way that some of y'all might have taken it? Maybe you're wrong. Then let's say out of this, like to say the neighborhood he's talking about, out of these three you see, one of them he picks up and says, well, Dad, I love him. I'm going to marry him. I'm going to marry him. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to marry him. Now you think if your daughter came home and this, right, you be cool with it? You think that when you really think that Isaiah Washington was advocating for this, or was he being facetious? Now again, some people took it for the way they want to, and I can't tell you how to take it, but I'm just saying, do you really think that's what he was doing? You really think that's what it was? When he showed you this, he's just saying to continue. Washington would be cool if his daughter came home and said, but I love him, Daddy. I love him, and we're gonna have right? So you see that smile and stuff on her face? Okay, whatever. But that's how she's doing it, right? So playing with each other, know their racial boundaries. We all have to get to that point. We got to know that, right? And today it seems like that is a thing of the past, but it seems like those things that were once is always again. They said the more things seem to change, the things more stays the same. Let me say that one more again. As they keep trying to make everything seems to be changing, but something just keeps seeming to stay the same. So with that being said, there was also, we on the anniversary of, have you ever heard of the Children's Crusade, right? Did you ever hear about that? Now, as we talking about these Klan members, right? Now, the Children's Crusade got to do it back in again by the time Isaiah Washington was born. So back in, I think it was in Alabama, they had the Children's Crusade because they wanted to have the adults. And the adults, based on the fact they were working, they know if they go out there, they would lose their job. So this is what really kind of that mantra of children going out there to be handling some of the situation when it comes to we as Black Americans in this country, is because it goes kind of back to the 50s, 60s, when they had the Children's Crusade, or they called the Children's March. And they went out there with James Bevel being the leader, and he used the school children, there was about 5,000 or so of them, that they went out there to protest. But it's ironic that they took that term of Children's Crusade, and the Children's Crusade goes back to 1212 AD, when they talk about a dude named Stephen from Cloyes. And what he did is he went to the king and asked permission to so that he can conduct a crusade. Now those crusades was them to try to go over to Israel or Palestine and take over Palestine. You know, they had the crusades. A lot of times people watch the History Channel, they see that. And so he claimed he had visions, and he wanted to go and remove the Muslims from Jerusalem and reclaim the Holy Land from the Catholics. Right now, this Stephen was only about 12 years old, and his followers were nothing but children. They claimed it was about 10,000 of them. And they said, based on his fervency and his preaching style and stuff like that, they said that this Stephen got the families and children. He's kind of like a piper. And he ended up having to say he had these divine visions. And so the king told him, wait a minute, man, you're too young to be doing this, man. So they was hard-headed, did it anyway, went up there, and they got what they got, right? They went over there, in grown folks' business and got dealt like children and grown folks. Now, let's take this to the point where they try to make the analogy or make the bridge to that in 1212, and then they talk about what our children, our ancestors, who were those who were part of the Children Crusade here in the United States, back between May 2nd and May 10th of 1963, about 60 years ago, matter of fact, of this week, 5-7, 60 years ago of this date, what they call, again, the event is the Children Crusade. Now, they said it was about 5,000 school children from Birmingham, Alabama. They organized by, again, James Bevel. And what they were supposed to do was they were supposed to go and march downtown so they could talk to the mayor because about segregation. Now, a lot of us today, looking in hindsight, looking back at history, we kind of say, hey, what happened in that move about segregating or actually desegregating, right? They actually want to mend, which we feel today is what was the wrong move to do. But looking in hindsight, that was the move that they were doing. And so again, they tried to get the adults, but the adults wouldn't do it. So James Bevel came up with the grandiose idea to go get the children. And so they got the children went out there. Now, let me show you some of that with them, right? So we know about some of the things that they went out there on that lunch counter, right? Went out there on that lunch counter, they was doing stuff like that, right? Then you had them that was in those lunch counters. You had some of them that went out there, was out there putting the signs and stuff out there, right? Right now, remember what Isaiah Washington said, right? Right? So you had them out there, they was putting the signs up there, right? Matter of fact, go back to that one again. Brother said, can a man, now look at the mindset back then. Can a man love God? Right? Can a man love God? Go back to that one. Go back. Can a man love God and hate his brother? Now see, again, trying to make some abridgment, some appeasement with people that history has shown you they have a line they will not cross. And sometimes, again, you've been beat down so long, you want the best for yourself, but you're thinking about appeasing of other people that somehow they're going to capitulate and find a soft spot in their heart for you when it's just futile, really. So here was children that should be doing grown folks work are out there. And again, this is where the foundation of what today, when they always talk about, the children being out there, you don't see them other people having their children out there. Think about that. Now you see other people on behalf looking like they don't want to look bad in front of the nation. They go out on behalf of black people stuff, but white folks stuff, other than when it becomes to some rights of LGBT and stuff like that, you may see them out there, but they don't have no other problems. And they don't send their children out there, do they? But we have. And so what happens is they send them out there. So Bull Connor go out there. Those who know the history of Bull Connor, he went out there and he said, hey, we're going to start locking them up. They was taking the kids, locking them up. They didn't care about them being no kids. You understand? Now this is back at this time. This is kids. They didn't care about kids locking kids up, right? And so as you see on your screen there, right? And then you see them, they taking them in and putting it in the little girl following her daddy right up in the paddy wagon. You take daddy and going right along with you, right? These are the things that was going on. And so far, and the thing is that the intensity that they would take it to, let's say make their point, they put the water hose on them, right? They put them damn water hose out on them. It was, giving it to them, right? Spraying them with the water hose. What have we seen? Now, these people that come today who come here on the auspice of the things that we as Black Americans have given, when you put this kind of skin in the game, then you can talk to us. When you ain't put this kind of skin in the game, you don't get to talk to us in that kind of way. You just don't, right? And so these are some of the pictures that you see of the things that have been happening, right? These are the images that stand the test of time to show the evidence of how they always been controlling, they've been playing us, right? And so you see the water hose, you see, right, how the spray, just imagine how that could tear skin off. You ever seen a building getting clean where they take that water and they could take the paint or the marking off of a building? So just imagine that coming across your skin like that, right? So here it is. Give me some more of these images here, right? They set the dogs out. The German dog is just like the German. right? The German, he was so white, then you get this dog that's German, right? You got the German dog, right? So that sister stand a dog like that. I ain't playing that. You can come over here if you want, right? But they putting it on the brother though, right? Then you got another one right there, biting the man pocket off damn near, right? Lucky, he didn't get that skin, right? He didn't get the skin, but he got that wallet. The wallet was fat back there, right? And so, again, the infamous picture that we all, those of that time know, that infamous picture of the dog, then biting the young man at that time, biting them up, right? And so here it is, here's this mamas and them, they out there and they showing and they putting the flags out there. They enjoying what they seen, right? Okay, this is what they enjoy seeing. And so here this was going on between, again, May 2nd to May 10th, 1963, and about 5 months later, what ended up happening? The explosion at the 16th Street Baptist Church, right? The 16th Street Baptist Church, where somebody put in 19 sticks of dynamite. Eventually, 4 men they end up putting in, supposedly, they became synonymous with the killing. And let me show some of the damage there, right? That's how the whole, just imagine they put them under the steps on the east side of that 16th Street Baptist and blew up. And so we all kind of know what happened with the 4 little girls that was inside, right? And so, matter of fact, to give you some of the homage to them and let you see some of the names, in case you didn't know, it's Carol Robinson, right? That's Carol Robinson. And let me, as you see the screen, you got, her name is Carol Denise McNair. I didn't put in her first name, but put Denise, but it's Carol Denise McNair, right? Then you got Addie Mae Collins. And then you also gonna have, you're gonna have Cynthia Wesley, right? So again, the 4 men that end up supposedly getting it is, one name was Herman Frank Cash. He died in 1994. Now remember, they don't even do the case and get them before 2002. So he was already dead before they even did the case. The other one name was Bobby Frank Cherry and he died in 2004. So he might have only had 2 years in prison. Then you had another one named Robert Edward Chumbliss. He died in 1985, so he never got, there was nothing to do with no death with him. But the one that did stay in jail, name was Thomas Edwin Blayton Jr. He died in 2020, came in 2002, so he did about 18 years. And there was a 4 that was associated with the bombing that they did of the 4 girls, we known as Oklahoma, not Oklahoma, but the Alabama 16th Street Baptist Church bombing. That's infamous when it comes to dealing with our history here. So when people be talking about how they feel like somehow they're entitled and the things that they use and then they try to come against us with, we got too much skin in the damn game for other people to be sitting here trying to think that somehow they entitled to that. And so I want to lay that foundation. And I know people done left up out of here, but that's what it is. Sometimes you got to get some instructions and you got to lay some foundation work before where we move it. Now, I know today is not those days where a lot of people like the old style way of cooking, which is preparation, right? Good meal, it takes time. You want the ready ding instant meal, you can throw that in the microwave and that may have the semblance of something good, but I compare that to somebody going in the kitchen and working and putting that work in, and you can taste the love in it. And that's the same thing as I put this here. So we'll be right back. back, right? So I got to go to the story that everybody's been talking about, the chokehold death of homeless Michael Jackson subway impersonator, Jordan Neely ruled homicide. Let me say that one more again. Chokehold death of homeless Michael Jackson subway impersonator, Jordan Neely ruled homicide, right? So we see that impersonator that so many people in New York knew about, that we seen a horrific video, an incident that took place on the subway. And we see that when that situation took place, it seems that the system dragged its feet. It seemed like there was a protection once again, that if it would happen to be me, you, or any of us of our cut or ilk, or cut from the cloth, there's no way we get off that train and not be able to go to that police station and not have to go through bail or be charged. But we see something take place, and we keep seeing this over and over again, and we kind of ask ourselves, some of us ask ourselves, some of us kind of already know what it is. But as you new in the game, still got that brand new car sent on you, you kind of say, well, you know what? We can't understand why. And so you've seen people take to the streets, right? Children out in the street, right? Protesting about that, right? Now, again, he was older. He was 30 years old, right? Still a young man. But based on what we saw there, was he deserving of that? And many of us going to say no. But I want you to, let's see, well, I don't really want to go too much over this, but let me show you. And I hate the fact that I don't even want to show this image, because there's some of them who get off. Now, again, we just talked about bombing of churches. We're talking about the history of an organization. And some of them are getting off on the fact of seeing this, right? So I'm doing this, again, as educational. I don't want to really put too much on it, but just for this, I have to do this, right? So, all right, so that was the scene that everybody has seen that ended up happening to Jordan Neely, right? And as you see him being held choked out, and he's being assisted by other people that was helping him do this. Now, again, accordingly, he comes on the train saying that he's hungry, right? And maybe he's irate, takes his jacket off, slams it down. Now, what justified this man, this individual named Daniel Penny, who it took several days, I guess by a slip of a news article that ended up putting his name out there. But prior to that, there was anonymity. They were hiding, concealing it. And we have to ask ourselves, with that kind of concealing and the time that had elapsed, that was enough time to scrub all your social medias and everything else that might show that you might have some affiliation to something else. I understand that the monetizing about Marines was one of the things that they kept doing, but we have to ask ourselves, though, what else was damaging that time allowed him to get them and clean scrub all that, right? So, but we know there was accomplices of those who seem to see a situation. If you've seen it from A, and you've seen a man come in, many of us have been on public transportation, and we see this. These are some of the things that are just part of public transportation, where people are irate. Sometimes there's some people who, may have some mental situations and so forth. Whether they don't accost you, or you know how to move away from them, or get, or if they're attacking you, that's different. But if they just have an outburst, you just get away from them and you move away from them. So, what is the justification in this? How are they trying to justify this and make this seem like, well, because a man is hungry and a man is homeless, even if the man has some mental issues, what gives you, once again, to be a vigilante, to say you protecting everybody when yet nobody has been accosted? There's nobody saying anything about nothing physical, nothing of attack, nothing of an object, nothing. Other than somebody being irate, yelling, and saying things loudly that might be affecting you in that way. But what gave you the right to accost him and do what you did to him? And so here was, with that being seen there, then you seen them after the fact that they let him go. Now, That was a long time for somebody to be held down. You had both his hands. So if you three, as we see here, if you three were the ones that had two hold the hands and the other one got him out of the neck, and this one is a Marine, and I'm pretty sure when we think about military is nothing about killing. They teach you how to be a trained killer, right? That's what they do. A soldier is a killer. So if everybody trying to downplay the fact that him choking him and had been doing his tours from 2017 to 2020 or 21, which he did about 4 years, so why act as if like his training of what he did had no effect on what ended up happening to Jordan Neely and the accomplices? What made you think that because you seen a white man holding a black man that you went in the system? Now, what if it was a white man being choked out and a black man? Would you assist? That's the question we got there. Would white people assist somebody black who thought that somebody white was intrusion or feeling like they were being threatened and put their self in a chokehold? Would you assist is the question. And most of us will probably get a poll, be like 99% of them say you probably wouldn't. You probably would either question or wouldn't even partake in it. But what was it that made them to partake in that? If all the man said he was hungry, he ready to go to jail because he could get 3 hots in the cot, right? Think about it. You could get 3 hots in the cot. If you go to jail, he know he can eat. If he go to jail, he can get the fat bologna sandwich. You know, a lot of us who know about that fat bologna say, hey, officer, can I get that sandwich? You know what I'm saying? You know, anyway, right? So, but with that being said, he could know he could get some meal. But being on the street, you got to think about all this sanctuary cities, all these immigrants coming in. There's probably no place for people who are considered citizens in this country trying to get into these places. There's probably not a bed nowhere in New York for somebody who's already been here for generations, can't get in those places. So he was what they call festivity. He was on the highest level of festivity, and he figured if I go in here, I used to be a performer, y'all know who I am. Now I'm older now, you know, I ain't doing that. But hey, can somebody, you know, slap me a sandwich, throw me $1, something, somebody help me. He was just crying out, right? And so again, being in New York, as I say, that New York has really become like a foreign country inside the United States. This is the hub where a lot of them come. And so can you imagine that the people that was on the train, there was nobody of Black American, ADOS, FBA, Tacha's indigenous was on the train and seeing this taking place, and nobody decided to say, hey, you know what? Hey man, what's going on here? If I was on the train and seeing it, I already know what the game is. So wait, what's all that about? Why you know what I'm saying? Intervene. We got to learn how to intervene in situations, because becoming onlookers is causing people to die. Now, there's some situation, if you don't know what it is, you don't know what it is. But if you was there and you see in that background there, you do see somebody there, right? So anyway, that's just what that is, right? So again, I want to show you something that ties into this, right? A young man convicted in his girlfriend killing gets 30-year sentence with no chance of parole. Let me say that one more again. A young man convicted in girlfriend's killing gets 30-year sentence with no chance of parole. Okay? Now, I'm bringing this situation is because it connects to him. And the connection is 30, let's say about 16 years ago, this had happened. And let me show you about something about this particular story here. Okay? You got a man named Sean Sutherland, who's 50 years old, who was found guilty of the murder of Christy Neely, who was 36 years old, at a non-jury trial in which he represented himself, looked on motionless of the two of the victims' family members, spoke at the sentencing. Okay? So there's a woman here named Christy Neely, 36 years old. A man named Sutherland is on trial for the killing of Christy Neely. And who's at the trial? Family members, victims' families is at this one. I want y'all to see this. Okay? So Sutherland, who strangled Neely in the 29th Street of Bayonne apartment they shared with their 14-year-old son a few days before the body was found in a suitcase on Henry Hudson Parkway on April 7, 2007. Let me say that one more again. Sutherland strangled Neely in the 29th Street district of Bayonne apartment they shared with her 14-year-old son a few days before the body was found in a suitcase on the Henry Hudson Parkway, April 7, 2007. Who's the 14-year-old in this situation here? Who is the son that is of Christy Neely? Would it be Jordan Neely? So in 2007, this young man had to go through the traumatic trial and was in the situation of losing his mama. Okay? So let me show you what happened up in this trial. So at the trial, the victim's son said he tried to say goodbye to his mother before school on April 4th of 2007, but Sutherland blocked him from the bedroom. He said later that day, Sutherland had packed up and moved out. Now, this is Jordan Neely's traumatic situation as a 14-year-old back in 2007, losing his mother to her boyfriend. And as you heard in the story, the mother was strangled. Okay? The mother was strangled and put in a suitcase and brought to a parkway, and that's where they found her at. And he goes in to testify. Now, just imagine for those who have never been through a traumatic situation like this, I hope that never befalls anybody, but just imagine as a 14-year-old carrying that. He was in the house when all this took place. He didn't hear anything. He couldn't come to her defense. All he knows that something intuitively before he went to school that day, went to the room, boyfriend blocked him, not knowing his mother is in that room. And he would have been able to find his mother today. And maybe if he goes in being persistent, maybe he'd have got killed that day himself. You get what I'm saying? And so he does it. And then later on, he comes to find out mama dead. So what does he do as a son? He's testifying, right? Now I want you to see something here, because this again, while they've been hiding that Daniel Penny and those accomplices, and a lot of people are trying to say what was justified and all these things, and the system is doing what it can. Look at what ended up happening at the trial of his mother. Now remember, his mama got strangled, removed, put in the suitcase, and they found her, right? So Hudson County Assistant Prosecutor Michael D'Angelo, he noted that it takes 1 to 3 minutes to be choked to death. All right, let's say that again. Hudson County Assistant Prosecutor Michael D'Angelo noted that it takes 1 to 3 minutes to be choked to death. Do you not see that on your screen? I, Mr. Blow Your Mind, did not write that. This is out the article. So if it takes 1 to 3 minutes to choke somebody out, how long was it when they was choking out Jordan Neely? And goes on, and he asked the court to be silent for 3 minutes, right? Then he stopped early, okay? Where did we see this before? Any of y'all remember the Trayvon Martin case, where they said that Trayvon Martin could have ran home? But I'm the only one in the black corner who solved the mystery of the Trayvon Martin. If you're not seen it, go see my video, Trayvon Martin 4-minute mystery, where they try to tell the courtroom a silence for 4 minutes, meaning this is the time that if Trayvon felt that George Zimmerman was attacking him and wanted to get away, he could have. But what they did not tell you, the mystery was that they did not tell you that it didn't start behind the Lowers house. The situation started when he seen Trayvon come through the cutway, which is way before he got to what they call the field house. And he was trailing him. Remember when he told Rachel Jantel, there's a creepy cracker following me. That's when the minutes should have been counting, not when you get behind the Lowers. So now what people took was they thinking from the back of the Lowers house, with a 4 minutes, he could have got away. But they never told you it started from back from the cutway. I was the only one who was able to, who solved that. And they hid the hell out of that video, right? So now in this court case, doing the same thing. So I believe this is where he got this from. Into maybe 2007, because wait a minute, with Trayvon 2007, shit, maybe he got it from the Trayvon Martin case. But anyway, 45 seconds within the 3 minutes of silence, he goes in and says how the fact that she is dying, gasping and struggling. So when you see that image, right? When you see that same image, Jordan Neely, he's going through the same ordeal as his mama. He's going through the same scenario as his mama. 2007, it happens to his mother. 2023, 16 years later, it's happening to him. Right? And so according to, if we're going to take the assistant DA or the assistant of that case, said it only takes 1 to 3 minutes to choke somebody out. They said 15 minutes. So why did they try to announce and say that he was pronounced dead at the hospital? He was already dead on the train. Let me say that one more again. See, if you don't want to believe that there's such thing as people protecting people and that the system protect those and that those of melanin and color and black, that it's a different system, that here is, you see on your screen that the Hudson County Assistant Prosecutor, Michael D'Angelo, said that it takes 1 to 3 minutes to be choked to death. So if they sat there and choked out Jordan Neely of 15 minutes, it was an overkill. And that's why the coroners came out with homicide, right? And why were they holding his hands? So now you are going to partake of what the same thing that this Daniel Penny should be getting, because the man that killed his mama is a black man, and they gave him 30 years, right? They gave him 30 years. So what's going to happen here with this Daniel Penny and the accomplices when it comes out? Because I read, as before I did today's show, that they're going to have a grand jury. Why is it? Have you ever seen a black person get a grand jury? Let me say that one more again. Have you ever seen, and I'm not talking about one in the uniform. When it comes to black people in the system, have you ever seen a black person get a grand jury? That doesn't happen, right? And when it came to, let's say, what was it, Brianna, right? They had a grand jury, right? So what's this game here, right? You mean you can go out here and choke somebody out under circumstances that don't even have nothing to do with you? You're grasping for straws, trying to say that because he was loud and because he said these things, he was doing it in such a threatening. But did he accost you? Did he touch you? But you touch him. And we're going to use you being a Marine to legitimize, to make you a hero, when technically all you did is you seen somebody black and the other one, the accomplices, seen a white man holding a black man and let us join in, right? Could you imagine if it was a white person being choked out and 3 black people holding them down? You think they could have got out of that damn jail? You think they wouldn't have been able to get bonded out? We know that wouldn't happen, right? So here's a picture of his mama, Christy Neely, right? The ironicness of what happened to that young man, that his mama, that he went through the ordeal to be a young man, had to testify for his mama, and the same situation is going to happen to him 16 years later. Could have happened to him that day if he would have been persistent and say, I'm going in to talk to my mama. Maybe he'd have killed him then if he didn't kill him, right? So that's his mama, right? And that's them put them two together, right? So sometimes in a spiritual thing, she went out in such a way that was kind of kept under the rug, but she's going to come back now to help her son. This is for the public to know. Everybody mentioned it, but nobody's telling you what happened, because what's happening is the person that killed her was a black man. They gave him 30 years. What you gonna give Daniel Penny and his accomplices? Because we all know what we've seen. We understand you're trying to find a way to rewrite it. You're trying to find a way to, as Malcolm said in the beginning of this, rewrite history. So what we're trying to use is, well, somebody having mental. We're trying to use the fact that somebody was homeless. We're going to say the manner in which one spoke justifies it. But if you do that and you open that door, I don't think you're going to go able to close that door again, because it'll never be right after that. And you're seeing the young ones out there. Because matter of fact, all we got to do is just look at what they've always said in this country. No rights which the white man was bound to respect. Going all the way back to what? The Dred Scott decision. That we as black people are not citizens in this country. You keep telling yourself you're a citizen. You keep telling yourself about the Constitution. You keep telling yourself, but even Mike Huckabee said, Dred Scott is still law of the land. And so what we're about to see again in this situation, are they going to hold true evidence to that? Will they be held accountable for what they did? And if not, these words you see on your screen will always ring to be true. No rights which the white man is bound to respect when it comes to you. We back, right? So now I seen this here. Now this here is going to go into, if some people say, well, you're racist, Mr. Blows Your Mind. Well, let me show you something that kind of slid up under everybody while everybody was being distracted. As you see on your screen, it's talking about a country on fire, right? Right? There was a new poll that finds America polarized over culture, race, and woke. They had a poll came out. Some of y'all didn't catch it. You want to hear it? Listen to this and be right back.
We asked, do you think American society is racist? And there is actually widespread in our poll agreement that it is. Nearly 60%, 59% saying yes. And if you take a look here and just break this down by race, there is a majority. It's a smaller majority, but a majority of white Americans feel that way. And then larger majorities of African Americans and Hispanics feel the same way, too. So on the question of is America racist, you're getting at nearly 60% of the country saying yes. OK, so what do you do about that? One of the solutions that's been in place now for decades in this country has been affirmative action programs. So what we asked in this poll was asked a question, basically giving people two choices here. Affirmative action. Is it still needed and is it still a good idea as long as there are no rigid quotas? That's what we asked in this poll. And a majority, 53%, agreed with that. The other option that we gave was that affirmative action goes too far. It should be ended because it discriminates against whites and Asian Americans. 42% agreed with that statement. If you want to break that down by party, you can see Democrats overwhelmingly say they're fine with affirmative action. Republicans overwhelmingly say they're opposed. And it's the independents. It's that independent vote there, that independent slice of the opinion that kind of makes the difference and that kind of is in line with the overall number. I would say one interesting note on this, well, you can see this in our poll when we ask it this way, there was one big ballot test for affirmative action in the last couple of years, and it came in a big and deeply blue state, and that was California. And California, by initiative about a generation ago, had banned public sector affirmative action. Well, 2 years ago, supporters of affirmative action put it on the ballot in California, same day Joe Biden romped in the state to restore affirmative action in the public sector in California. It went down to defeat. That proposition went down to defeat by 16 points in California. So while you are seeing double-digit support here for the concept of affirmative action as we outline it in this poll, you have to keep in mind what happened in a very, very big blue state when affirmative action was on the ballot in 2020. That's what I mean about maybe some mixed signals. Here's also what we talk about with mixed signals. Now, are you familiar with the term woke? 3/4 of Americans say they are familiar with the term woke. Okay, what does it mean to you, those who are familiar with it? Does it make you more or less favorably inclined to someone or something who's identified as woke? And by about a 2-to-1 margin, people, that has a negative connotation. The term has a negative connotation. You look across party lines here. Among Democrats, it's more positive. Among Republicans, it's deeply unpopular. But there it is. It's among independents. The word woke has a very negative connotation with Republican voters. And then when I say different things can mean different things to different people at the same time, here's what I mean. We ran a number of statements by people and asked basically, does this describe your view? So we asked folks, the statement, our country needs to do more to increase social justice. 70% said they agreed with that. Wow. 7 out of 10, pretty big support there. Our country needs to reduce political correctness and cancel culture. Not quite 70%, but basically 2/3 also agree with that. Or if you look at it this way, our country should be more tolerant of the LGBTQ community. 61% say they agree with that. Put it this way, if you ask it this way, we have gone too far in promoting LGBTQ lifestyles in our culture. Almost the same number. Nearly 60% say yes. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the contours of our political debate and how the two parties are kind of aligning themselves in these questions, a lot of these statements you might think would be in opposition to each other and would polarize, and yet you run these statements, all 4 of these statements by people, and you're finding big majority support for it. So like I say, there is a lot of measures of divisiveness that comes through on social and cultural issues in this poll, but I think there's also a lot of sort of interpretive room here when you start to look at it.
Well, you know, and
we asked, do you think of...
Right? So that was a poll that came out about a week ago, not even really a week ago, but within the week of everything that's been kind of with the Jordan Neely situation and other things. But they came out with a poll. And it said that is the American society racist? And as you see on your screen there, it had a 59% to 39% said yes. Right? Now, when you ask white people about races, are they saying that black folks are racist? Is that what they yesing to? Because black folks have something entirely different when they say who's racist. And if you ask Hispanics, they may have somebody. And if you ask, right? So when you say 59%, so everybody feels there's a problem with race in this country, right? And so according to them, they said 60%, or 59, they I guess it went up, rolled up. So 59 to 38. And that the majority, he tried to sneak in and say the majority of white people also believe that. But that's what my question is. Do white folks believe that it's racist against them? And when we look at history and how the formation and legislation and laws and things that have taken over time, you know, some of y'all just the beneficiaries of what your ancestors left you. Let me say that one more again. Some of y'all are just the benefactors or beneficiaries of the nonsense, the karma that was left by your ancestors. And I know many of you are going to say, but my ancestors, they just came over to Ellis Island there. But when you left your country and you were willing to sign on the dotted line and say that I ain't going to check the box and become white, you inherit everything that came with the perks of being white as the goods and the bad. You can't separate the fish from the bone. The fish and the bone go together. Otherwise, you can't have a fish. So we can split the bone from our perspective. We can split the bone from the fish, but from you, you have to take everything. Because if you're gonna take the good, you got to take the bad. So you have to take it in this whole, in its totality. And a lot of you don't want to do that. So you become now defensive, and you feel like somehow that things are against you, but you don't realize, unless you're just playing dumb or playing blind, is the fact that, well, those people prior to you that check the boxes white, that got all the benefits and everything in their favor, well, the karma is you're going to have to feel the resentment of sometimes of what you wear, the skin that you see in the mirror. Now, it's funny how in a short period of time that these same people are now trying to say, as you've seen him, let me show what he's talking about here, right? So let's show this first before I go there. So he breaks down this chart, how they got to 59%, when he showed you that from the race category. So what he's going to do is show you from a racial category. He showed you that white people were 59% said yes, 44% said no, right? And then when it came to the blacks, it's 79% to 17%. And then Hispanics were 69% to 29%. So where's the Asians at? And where's the so-called Native Americans? What are their percentages? So the four majors, right? The 3-on-1. Now I keep that on again. The 3-on-1. It's always 3-on-1, ain't it? It's always 3-on-1. There's black, then there's Hispanic, whites, right? And then there's the other one. There's always 3-on-1. But anyway, so 79%, that's how 80% of people who oppose believe that society is racist. Now, when you say society, that could be all the above. It don't have to necessarily be just one particular group. It could be all the above. And so he just kind of glossed over the 79% and said majority white people also believe, right? So 53 to 44. So if you look at that, 53%, 79% and 69%, based on who you ask, and again, some people will take the poll and try to make the 330 million plus, and we all, this is the percentage. No, it was the people who polled, and those numbers reflect that. But that could be an indicator of how people are looking and feel. So with that being said, most people do look at it that way. We know there's something, we know there's a lot of, there's slantness, there's a rigged ass game, right? There's a riggedness to this game. But why do white folks feel that it's a racist society? Is it because of woke? Is it because of, let's say black people in particular are trying to unify and trying to get reparated and trying to make some wrong straight? Is that racist? Is that what you feel like you're racist about? Because you've been a beneficiary for long periods of time. How do you feel it's racist? They need some explanation on that. If you ask me, you need to explain who are they talking about when they say racist? Are they saying yes, they are racist? Is that what they trying to? Yes, we are racist towards everybody else, or you saying somebody being racist towards you? And that again, that probably be those people who are the newer of whites, who generation or so, and those who are newly immigrated, a generation or so, are feeling the burden of history. And so they kind of feel like everything is being turned, that everything is for them and against them. So much to the fact that when he said of divisiveness, when he started talking about that, where did he go? What they want to do is they want to break it up and make it about political, right? They want to get into this political, okay, it's the Democrats this, the Republicans this. It's still going to come down to that, like that chart. It's still going to be white, Hispanic, right? It's still, but that's just trying to switch it off of them, right? I'm gonna shuffle the deck a little bit and make it political. And there's a lot of people who buy into that political say, oh, the Democrats are more, they're liberals and right, all that nonsense. Break it all the way down. Who is really in there? Who really running all this? There's some people, I'm conservative, I'm a black conservative. Okay, yeah, right. Okay. Right, you like back in the days, a prize in the Cracker Jack box, right? There's a prize in there, but the rest of that is the Cracker Jacks. You just a part up in there. You ain't really got no control. You ain't pulling no strings up in there, but you like to believe that. So again, this is to carve it up so it don't look the obvious of where this racism of society is. And so they go to, you see on the screen, 80% of Democrats So what does Democrat mean symbolically? Is that black? Is that synonymous with black folks? Democrats, is that like black folks? So again, just like 79% you said black folks, 80% of Democrats, what means is black folks believe, right? Affirmative action. Now he's talking about affirmative action. Now when you talk about affirmative action, you're talking about a time when black folks was here, when JFK, when he did that executive order 10925, and that they was talking about at that time about the provision that the government contracts, right? That they was allowed to get in there. And then they revised it with Lyndon B. Johnson and gave the executive order of 111246. And then he changed it to where it required the government employers to hire without regards to race. Now, you got to remember at this time when all this is happening, when you're talking about 64, 65, you're talking about also the same time of the new immigration law. So what benefits, when anything that they talk about with black folks and what they should have gotten, you never allowed them to reap the benefits of whatever you supposed to have gave, right? Today's show is about giving yours, right? So you never got to reap the benefits of whatever you're supposed to have gotten, because they find a way to always undermine you. And so the racist aspect of it is that nobody really wants to hear the truth that comes out of black folks' mouth. They think that you always complaining. And yet the poll is indicating that the society is racist. But again, it didn't get to the nuts and bolts. It didn't get down to the specifics. Who is white folks believe is racist to them? Who is black folks believe is racist to you? Hispanics, who is racist to you? Asian, who is racist to you? If everybody agrees 59 to 39% that this country and society is racist, then pick out who's your enemy. Who's the one that goes to you? Because we see as black folks, we see Asians get a crime bill. Yet we see so many things happen to black folks. We ain't seen a Chinese person get on no train and get choked out to death. We seen some videos of some things that then took place, right? So is there going to be a crime bill here? Are we going to see a crime bill? Are we going to see any kind of legislation, or is we going to get, as they say, the same old soup just reheated as what you done once before we do it again, right? So they go in, then they show the other aspects of it, right? Again, talk about familiarity with woke. Everybody see, right? Because they took that word that was being used in the black corner, and it was being spread about, again, being on code, being woke, knowing your history, knowing about your family, and they had to take and reroute it so that it could not have the steam that it once had. And then they came, and then they took it, and then they attached CRT to it. They took all kind of things and attached it to it. So now that the word don't have, it's like salt. It done lost its flavor. It's just nothing now. They done took the salt out of it. So now you done misconstrued it and threw it around and rechanged it to now don't have the power that what it had. And see, that's the thing about what us as black people, when we create something and make it solely about our own, and when people cannot control it, they will destroy it for the benefit of themselves so that we don't benefit. See, if they can't benefit off of what we do, they destroy what we do. Let me say that one more again. When we as black folks create something that is for the benefit of us, others will find a way to destroy it so that we can't benefit because they can't benefit off of it. Am I right or am I wrong? Right? So 76% of the people who took this poll said, you know what? I've heard of woke before. And they said it has what? A negative connotation. Why is that negative? Think about what they're saying. Woke is being negative. It's negative. You would prefer to have somebody sleep? That tell me somebody, again, let's say, for instance, hypothetically speaking, that, you know, somebody going on, we just say the Bill Cosby situation, right? So somebody want to put a quaalude on us, right? So they can take advantage of it. Let me say that one more again. Somebody want to put the quaalude on us so that they can take advantage of us because incapacitated. Want to keep you incapacitated. Woke is a bad negative connotation. Why? Ask yourself, why is that negative? Oh, you want me to be asleep so that I don't reveal who and what your true motives are. You don't want me to get my fair share. You all want to keep having it so that you can take advantage and let us be in a condition and then tell us in reverse psychology and tell us that the reason why you in that is you did it to yourself. So what does that speak about you guys that hold that position, that you believe that woke is a negative connotation? It's not good for you, but the people who they were using it to galvanize and to unify, it's not good for them. You get what I'm saying? So that's what it is, right? And so they go on and they show again the last part of that poll. They go into everything. And now let me show you everything they talked about. The one thing they didn't mention in here, right? You went in there, you start talking about how 70% of our country needs to do more when it comes to increase about social justice, right? That's what those of us in the black corner of YouTube do. What's social justice? Let's say commentary, I guess you say journalists and things of that, right? We try to keep abreast of some of the current events, keep our people aware about some of the things and our perspective of how things go. So a lot of people are agreeing that there should be more of that. Our country needs to reduce political correctness and cancel culture. Well, who's affected by that? Politically correctness, right? Reduce it. Why do you reduce politically correctness? Who the one that has a problem with politically correctness? That's kind of like truth in a sense, right? Cancel culture. Cancel culture is another thing because it's like you don't want to hear the truth. So you want to snuff it out. You want to take that person and put them somewhere so they can't be heard. Just like this show here, WeUpReport. Mr. Blows Your Mind. Been in the game for going on 11 years. Most of you ain't never heard of me because why? They keep me suppressed. Right? I can't get enough impressions to give me enough views. So anytime that y'all that come over here, you like what I do on the day or every weekly at least, you give me a like, share, comment, and so forth. Again, any contribution will always be welcome. But anyway, so they want that. Then they talk about our country should be more tolerant about LGBTQ community, more tolerable. I mean, what you do at home in your bedroom and in the places that you fraternize it is your business. We as heterosexual people, we ain't flaunting about what's going on with us. We ain't got no parade, right? We ain't got no day. There ain't no heterosexual day. It's just, it is what it is. Why is it that this big burst of pushing on us? Again, for those who don't know, the last 3 videos I did prior to this one has something to do about the history of with that DSM, right? The Bible for the psychiatry, and how in 1973 they end up passing and taking off the stigma of saying that it was a mental disease, and they went crazy from 73 to now, and that's why they owe so fervent, because they on the 50-year anniversary. This is why you've been seeing with the Bud Light, you've been seeing all these things being pushed because they on an anniversary that many of y'all wouldn't have known. But they made sure that that video that I had, and then the NCAA championship, I'm just assuming, and this is my perspective, is that person who they thought was going to win that was supposed to be a big flag carrier and was going to come out about something, but it got held up by a Reese, right? But anyway, that's another topic for another time. So again, we have gone too far in promoting LGBT, right? Have we gone too far? When now they're making legislation and talking about, well, if my kid is this age, they don't have to get consent from me, and we making laws so they don't have to come to you. Why are you trying to have a way so that I as a parent can't determine, or we can't sit down and we don't have the right, you get what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things, but you know the one thing they didn't talk about? You know what the elephant in the room is on that poll? Reparations. Do you believe that black folks should be getting something? And guess what you probably find out? A lot of people don't want that. Everybody got their own self-interest, and if they don't have no part to gain in it, they, again, crab in the barrel. They'll sit there and they'll know what's wrong and what done happened to you, but they don't want you to get nothing if they can't get something, right? They're called unconstitutional if you make something solely based on we as a group. It's unconstitutional. But when they cut it up and they'll say for the American people, but it seems never to trickle down to in our groups and to the people out. Everybody else is getting this, stepping in line before us. You got people who are using, let's say, alphabet organizations, they're using gender organizations, they're using immigration organizations to get in front of a whole group of black people. to get in front of you, right? So anyway, that's just how they do, right? But that was a poll that was there. Now I'm going to show you what they did in Britain. Be right back, but listen to this.
I don't believe you, man. I don't believe you. I mean, after all of these years, I realized why they call you fat. It's because of your fat head. You're a pig. You know, you're a greedy pig. Yeah. And you're proud of it too, aren't you? You're just really proud. Yeah. You know, you won't be satisfied till every 10-month-old kid has... I mean, you're worse than cancer. You're like an epidemic. You're a disease, man. That's what you are. You're like a curse. Tell you something, you vicious-ass piece of jelly. I'm going to drive you off the streets. I'm going to drive you back into the rat holes that you came from.
Majority of British public think Charles should not apologize for slavery, new poll shows. Let's say that one more again. Majority of British public thinks Charles should not apologize for slavery, new poll shows. Most Britain believe that King Charles should not apologize for the royal's historic role in slavery and colonialism around the world. Despite a growing clamor, 55% are against him saying sorry. The poll revealed with 27% of it. The remaining 18% are undecided. Interestingly, a third of Republican voters said that Charles should make no such apology, while 57% were in favor. But 59% of Black Africans or Caribbean respondents called on him to apologize, with 18% against. The statistics lay bare the difficult path King Charles must navigate in trying to keep Commonwealth nations on side without being accused of provoking divisions at home. It comes after Barbados voted to become a republic in 2021, with growing movements across the nation from Jamaica to Australia. Calls for slavery reparations and fury over the Windbush scandal follow William and Kate across Belize, Jamaica, and the Bahamas during their disastrous Caribbean tour last year. Majority of British public think Charles should not apologize for slavery, new poll show. So we're back, right? So there was a poll that came out with them talking about them, the Britons. They believe that the King Charles should not apologize. Now again, what's wrong with apologizing? You know what's wrong with apologizing? The minute you apologize, you already made admittance that you did something wrong. Think about it. Here in the United States, have they ever given a formal apology to Black Americans for what had been done? But I'm gonna show you something on the next one as we coming up. Why they ain't never done that. Matter of fact, if you've been an avid watcher over here, remember I did the Congress bill where they pretend like they went before. We got a message from the president. Remember they did all that, and then there was the secretary come out. We're going to be apologizing for Black Americans for what the United States did. And then what they do, they went into recess, and that was the end of that. So they want to put it on the books like they did it, but they didn't do nothing as to voting on it. They all just left after that. You can go look it up. It's in there. They didn't do nothing. It was on Obama's watch. They did nothing when it came to it. So again, apologizing, right? People don't even want you to apologize, and yet they say they know what happened. Just get over it, right? That's how they look at it. Now, I got a message here. Let me see who this is here. Oh, I forgot that brother. We Boogie out there. What's good, brother? And this is the okay. Brother D says this is the bullshit they pull every time. Yet they will want us to remember November 11th every year. Exactly, right? Every year, right? Never to forget what happened on September 11th. September 11th, not November, brother. September 11th, right? 911, you 811. But I know what you're talking about. So the thing is, yeah, that's how it goes. What's good for that goose ain't good for the other gander. Again, I'm going to show something as we get into it, because I'm going to show you where the crux of this whole thing that some people call white supremacy. I'm going to show you where the lock is to that whole thing. Because remember, as you've seen on the thumbnail, you've seen the Pope. Now I'm going to show you that whole game with that Pope and how that actually deals with us as well. But So let me show you something here about this King Charles business here, right? Thanks for your comment, Brother D. So again, they talking about how 55% are saying they want him to just say sorry, right? They say 55% against saying sorry. They said against saying sorry. 27% they're for it. 18% is undecided. Okay, so this is over in Britain. This right now, they had the empire, correct? They inherit the, let's say we could say those who know we're really the Atlantic slave trade part when they talk about when they made that at, and they inherit that because of what happened with France, and then they end up inheriting, and they got the contract, right? They end up getting that contract, right? But anyway, so they don't even want to do that. So I want y'all to see the conversation that took place on this Piers Morgan show. They had a sister, and again, it's always a 3-on-1 when you. It's like they need 3-on-1. The ratio fight between blacks and white is 3 whites to every white person. I mean, to every black person. Just like you seen on the train with Jordan Neely, it was 3-on-1, right? Let me show you something. Be right back. Check this out.
Start with you. I've got a problem with this constant looking back in history, feeling guilty for stuff that none of us in this era actually did, and then having to say sorry for everything that we didn't do, and even now, apparently having to pay people today for stuff that happened to their ancestors many generations before. I don't really get what that achieves.
We should learn from lessons of the past. We can't change anything, and we should move forward. But the Queen's greatest achievement, his mother's greatest achievement, was the Commonwealth of Countries. She was very proud of that. I think if we could beam her down now, she would say, my Commonwealth. That should survive intact into the King's reign. So he should do whatever he can. Now, bear in mind, I've known this man for a very long time.
Yep.
He has a voice, and he will say what he feels.
Here's the real problem he's got. There's another voice yapping away about racism. 2 voices. His son, Harry, and Harry's wife, Meghan, who for 3 years have branded the royal family a bunch of callous racists. That is now turning up in these polls because, understandably, frankly, black people in the Commonwealth around the world are going, whoa, really? They're racist, these people? And yet they haven't produced a shred of evidence for any of it.
You and I know the royal family are not racist. And you and I know that they pressed the racist button on the Oprah Winfrey show.
Yeah.
And they never apologized to the Queen.
Never.
She went to her grave thinking there was a racist in the royal family.
And after she died, they said...
What happened? We didn't say that, the press said that.
Didn't mean to say it was racism.
Why didn't you correct it, Harry? Why didn't you tell your...
Well, we know why, because it made them... They weaponized racism and mental health to make themselves extremely rich.
I totally...
All right, start with you. I've got a problem with this.
So we back, right? Okay, so he's, again, everybody, when it comes to the establishment. Now, I understand you as a newscaster, you as, I don't know, whatever position he had. But as the institution of that crown, right? The whole institution, they call that monarch, right? Everybody, those who of us read history, isn't that the institution of that empire that comes from that goes back generations? So what do you mean, any shed of evidence? Everybody who knows and read the history knows that's who they're talking about, right? But everybody got amnesia, and then when it comes to paying up, they want to dine and ditch. They done ate good. Now it's time to build them. Everybody looking for the exit to get the hell out the way. You get what I'm saying? And so, Piers Morgan, he's controversial in itself because he flip-flopped. He don't act like he don't know about racism, but I remember when he said some things and he had walked off the show, right? And then they had, what's the name over there? That I forgot that British talking one, this whatever the name, but she tried to back him up and come out. She did the same damn thing. So it's like, white folks don't even realize how damn racist y'all ass can be. You know everybody in your damn family, and you don't think some by osmosis that you don't garner it either. No matter how much you tell yourself you're not and so forth, but you got it and you harbor the same damn things, and then you want things to just disappear and make it go away. But when it comes to you, like the brother D said, when it comes to remembrance about your things, oh, we supposed to be sentimental. And just like when they say their queen died, and then you see how people went in there and put all them memes, and they say how you were disrespectful. Well, how disrespectful was it when it comes to the history of what the empires have done to people of color all around this world, right? And when it comes to trying to make amends for it, they ask for an apology, and you can't even apologize. You feel like you shouldn't have to apologize. And then to somehow say that, well, what will this achieve if we do this? If we was to pay reparations, what does that achieve? What you mean, what does it achieve? What did you garner from the institution? What did y'all gain from it? You want us to move forward without making any amends, about making no changes to nothing. That tells me how diabolical y'all are. Y'all know what y'all do, but you're denied what y'all really do. And then they're feeling that the Commonwealth is in jeopardy. The Commonwealth is in jeopardy because why? A lot of those countries, the Caribbeans, are saying we no longer want to be associated with it. We want to be Republicans now. We want to be a republic, which we don't want to be up under you, right? And so he wants to say, well, the thing that made the queen for who she is, at least she kept the monarch, she kept those Commonwealth intact. But that's what the new time is and the new era is. People, again, when talking about woke and coming to themselves and saying, I don't want to be subjugated up under you. And when we talk about the Pope, you're going to find out what's the real linchpin, how they did it, especially here in this United States. Stay tuned for that, right? And then he goes on to talk about Harry and his wife. Now, what they're saying is Meghan came in there. It was like, he said she was the first non-European to be in the monarch. And she could, look, know how when Barack Obama became president and Barack Obama had to be the best, he had to be the magic Negro, right? He had to walk straight, talk straight, had to have beer summits, all that stuff, right? Because he was the first, right? So when Meghan came in, that's what they wanted. They wanted Meghan to come in there, even though I don't consider her to be a black woman, but they wanted her to come in there and be like, you know what I'm saying, accept who we are. This is what it is. You got a brooch in there, black as it can be, saying all kinds of things. Oh, look at Archie. Archie is a son, doc. He's going to be a Negro. Like, you know what I'm saying? All kind of stuff, right? And they blame, saying that because of what? Again, she's half. I'm not saying she don't have no black. She half black. And she put that half black ass on that white ass Harry and blew his damn mind. And he was like, y'all remember in Harlem Nights? She did Sunshine on his ass. Huh? Remember Sunshine? Richie, I'm in love with you. And he got on the phone, hey, Richie, let me speak to mommy. Hey, darling, I'm never coming home, never see you again, right? That's what he did. He left the damn monarch, right? He got up, she put that ass on him, and he ain't been back since, right? He came over here, right? So they mad, he said, because of what he did and going on Oprah, they spread the name, made us racist, and you got no one shred of evidence. All it is in the book. Go read it. It's all in there. Imperialism all around the damn world, subjugated, having Africans carrying what's the name on their shoulders, like all kinds of stuff, right? It's all kinds of stuff. But you think they want to admit it? No, they're not going to admit it. It's fine to know. You like, okay, all right, glad to see that. Okay, so right, you know what I'm saying? She put that ass on him, and he turned him out. But Harry was feeling the same way because it's kind of, again, on the low is saying you ain't even really you ain't the daddy's baby either, right? On the low, right? Really, he ain't the baby's daddy either. So he know they've been talking shit about him too. So he like, fuck it, come on, let's go. I'm going wherever you going, I'm going. We ain't gonna. I'll denounce this, huh? He denounced it, right? And coming to America, when she said, "You want me to denounce this?" He was denouncing it, right? I said, fuck it, I got you now. But they want to act like, for some odd reason, everybody keeps saying things. It's got that old saying. Everybody keeps saying it, so it must not be true because everybody's saying it. No, you're just in denial. You're just in denial of it. And then they want to talk about how Oprah Winfrey, because remember when Oprah went over there, went to that store, they wouldn't let her in, said, shit, you ain't never the nigga. But they up in here, what you trying to buy, right? Then they kind of found it was Oprah, right? And they said they let the queen die. He said, let the queen die. Now, one thing he did say, now I thought it was a little funny myself. He said, the queen would come down. I said, what do you mean come down? Like, why she can't be coming up? You guys say it might be coming up. What the hell you mean coming down? Shit. Why don't nobody want to see the damn terrible ass damn people? They're all in heaven looking down, smiling down. No, you might be looking the hell up. Anyway, here's the other part to that part here. Let me see. Got the next part on there. Listen to this. Watch this 3-on-1 they finna do. This is how they get down. Well, let's see this. Check this out.
Come on. This is my problem. This has always been my problem with this racism narrative that these two have spun without any evidence, is that people around the world, particularly people of colour, they believe it. And why wouldn't they believe it? They're hearing the first person who wasn't a white royal bride say they're racist, these people. So then the damage is palpable, it's tangible, and it will lead, I think, if we're not careful, to a load of these countries becoming republics and the beginning of the end of the monarchy.
Thank you for your soliloquy.
No, thank you.
All right, no problem. So first and foremost, my feelings on the royal family and racism are not predicated on Harry and Meghan's willingness to identify. That's the difference between me and you. We are talking about a country that was built off of racism, and we are referring to the oldest institution in this country that started it all. So that's the first thing. In terms of why black people and many others feel the way that we do, well, the monarchy is a symbol of white supremacy. Okay? White supremacy. That is the reason.
Why does it make any difference if King Charles says sorry? Or why does it make if he pays money? What difference does that make? Come on, this is my problem. This has always been my problem with this racism narrative that these two have spun without any evidence, is that people around...
Hold on. No. Go back to that. Go back there. Right? All right, so you got that on replay. Okay, so now you heard what he said, right? Now they blame black people believe in the fact that racism exists. That there's really no evidence, and it's just a figure of our imagination, and that we just make that up. You know, that's like back in the day, they used to say, black people always make it up. You're always playing the race card. It's what do you call somebody who always put the blame on somebody else and never take accountability for the shit they do? What do you call people like that? Who do you call an individual like that? Or what do you call a nation of people like that? Right? See, it's called like a vampire. They don't never want to take that damn mirror and put it in their damn face to look at themselves and look what they have done, whether it be you today, your granddaddy yesterday, your great-grandfather last week, and so forth and so on. Nobody want to act like ain't nothing done. The psychosis that I believe a lot of them got, you want to believe that people, black people around the world, that they're in the conditions that they can't do without you because you think that something inherently in them is something wrong with them. There ain't nothing inherently wrong with you about you need to subjugate and rig the damn game, right? And make everybody else somehow inadequate by stealing all them and make them have to play your damn game. But there's something wrong with them. And then when they want to tell the truth, it's everybody but you. Do the medical association, when the psychiatry, have you ever seen them? Because matter of fact, we see people let's say of white skin can use crazy to get out of jail, right? Have you ever seen them give a black person being crazy and getting out of jail? It don't work, right? So then if white people know they could be crazy and not go to jail, that means that something must be wrong with a lot of y'all. But for some odd reason, when it become obvious about what it is, you'll be in straight face denial and then try to convince me and others that what happened was our own damn fault. And you know, to keep telling a lie so long enough and keep repeating it enough, what they say after 7 times, they keep repeating it. That's what they do with the commercials. That's like, come on, you want a hamburger, don't you? You want a hamburger. You want a McDonald's, don't you? You want a McDonald's, don't you? You want right? Next thing you know, come on, let's all go and get a McDonald's, get a Big Mac or something, right? So that's what they do to monetize you and get you all tore up and confused in your mind. And then they tell you, and you be like, okay, it must be. Like some black women believe that black men ain't nothing. Now, I'm not saying all of us is good, but I'm saying under the conditions, under the system that we've been trying to thrive and fight in, and the game being rigged to make it say he don't make sure, and then he make no man act. I mean, he do again, just like woke, then he'll make no man act at home, right? And that ain't rigging the damn game. And then say, look at your people. Y'all can't keep a family together. Look at the men don't say that. You don't do this with robbing, stealing. But you're rigging the damn game. But you don't even want to admit you're doing that. You don't think that's sick that you rig and do all this stuff and then sit there and look like, wow, we didn't do anything. This is natural. This is what you guys do. Now think about this. You got everything in the world. I want y'all to understand it. Think about this. You got everything that every country in the world needs to function. And you gonna tell me that them people on that continent called Africa can't run their own store without you? That's what you want me to believe? That the people in the continent can't run it without you? And somehow you're running it because they in Africa, they don't have no mindset. They don't have the functionality to do it. Ain't nothing wrong with you mentally? Nah? All right. Nothing wrong with you. But everybody else but you. She said the empire of let's say the British Empire is the symbol of white supremacy. Is it not? Right? It is, right? That's why Megan had a hard time. She couldn't take it no more. She couldn't take it. I don't know what she thought when she was going to go in there, what she thought she was going to get. But she went in there, right? And I just can't imagine what that mama was thinking. Huh? I want to eat nothing, drink nothing. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that was her business. But anyway, so right, the symbol of it, and yet he didn't say it wasn't. He tried to change the topic. He tried to change the damn topic. Now listen to this when we get back right back. The last part.
How does that combat racism?
No, it actually does. So let me.
The guy hasn't got a racist bone in his body. He's done more for racism than any public figure in the country. Why should he be paying for the sins of people hundreds of years ago?
Okay, so can I finish?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So, the monarchy is a symbol of white supremacy, which is what black people have had to contend with for the last 400 years, notwithstanding the fact that Elizabeth, or every king and queen, from Elizabeth I.
You think the last late queen was a model of white supremacy?
Let me finish my point. You just asked me several questions. Let me finish.
Well, answer the question.
Right, I'm getting there, so just finish.
Well, hurry
Let me
up.
just finish, okay?
Hurry up.
So, every king and queen from Elizabeth I to William IV has supported and profited off of slavery. So, this is about the fact that this country was built off of racism, and that's
this
the
country
point.
also
Wait, hold on a
led.
second. This country
You can't just keep
stems
talking.
From, no, because I haven't even finished my point.
You
Piers.
can't just
keep
make
interrupting.
outlandish
You
statements
keep
about our royal family and not
interrupting.
expect me to jump in.
Piers, you keep interrupting. Can I finish my point?
This country also led the world out of slavery.
Okay, so can I finish my point?
A long time ago.
Can I finish my point, please?
Yes.
Perfect.
But
So,
please finish it.
I will. No problem. Just be patient. So, every single king and queen from Elizabeth I to William IV over a 270-year
just
period
said this.
supported the enslavement of Africans and profited as a result. So, it
Yeah.
doesn't... It doesn't
this
take any
country-
genius. Hold on a second. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that this country was built off of racism and it stems from white supremacy, all of which is directly attributed to the crown, slavery, and colonialism. To answer
you
your
now-
point, let me finish
You can't
my
just
point.
keep talking.
Piers, you keep interrupting.
Answer my question.
Let's have a conversation.
Answer my question.
Let's have a
We need
conversation. You spoke
mediation
about
here,
slavery.
guys.
You spoke about slavery. Let me answer let me answer the point.
I asked you a specific question.
I want to
Why
answer
should
the point.
King Charles
Let me answer the
be
point.
either
Let me
apologising
answer the point.
for what happened centuries ago
Okay, let me
or
answer the
paying money for it?
Okay, so what you're talking about is slavery. I'm not talking about slavery. Slavery can be traced back to Europe. The Greek slave trade, to be specific, in 400 BC, then the Roman Empire, and then we get to the Muslim conquest of the 7th century.
And
Vikings,
black
Vikings,
people
Vikings.
had slaves
So, what
too,
we're talking about,
right?
exactly.
So
I'm not talking about
slavery
Piers.
comes in
I
many
am not
forms.
talking about
There is a lot of slavery
Well,
around
yeah, so-
today.
So I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm talking about colonialism, neo-colonialism, racism, racial
Yep.
disparities, and the racist system of oppression and exploitation of black people and white supremacist activities, which have been rebanded under the
What's that got to do with King Charles?
I'm telling you why he needs to apologise and pay reparations.
Why? What did
It's
he
not got
do?
anything to do with slavery.
What
Slavery is
did
an
he
element.
do?
I'm telling you, colonialism, neo-colonialism,
He didn't do
racism,
that.
racial disparities and a racist system of white supremacist attributes. That is the legacies of the crown, slavery and colonialism that still remains.
I understand.
Let me finally get my point across. Lord, you
You've
need
got
to
your
let me
point
finish.
across, but here's my point, my counterpoint to you. What's any of that got to do with King Charles,
Okay, so I'll
who
explain.
actually has been, I think, one of the great standard bearers in royal history for actually promoting racial inequality and tackling racial
Okay,
injustice.
so let me
And yet you
explain.
want him to be issuing grovelling apologies for people hundreds of years ago,
So let me
and you
explain.
want him to pay money.
Okay, so I think black people would be far more inclined to get. So
How does
reparations.
that combat racism?
So again, we back, right? Now, that's the argument that many of them will do. They want to individualize it. Did you notice how he tried to individualize the situation by saying, what did he got to do with it? He not separate from the institution, is he? He's a representation. He is a progenitor of it. He's a descendant of it, correct? And if he's at the head, then why not be in charge if that's your position now to be in charge of it? Why, white folks, why do y'all act like y'all don't understand? Why do y'all act like that cause and effect? Why y'all trying to act like y'all don't understand cause and effect? You think because something that happened at a time before and they ain't never been cured. It's like saying, for instance, how they say getting cancer. Let's say you got cancer or there was traits of cancer in you when you was 5, but you didn't catch it. And as you got 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50, right? You get to 50 years old, they come say, well, you know, you got stage 2 cancer. You're like, stage 2? I never knew I had. How come they never detected, never found it? Okay, because they didn't catch it, right? Got nothing to do with it. It's spreading, does it not? If you didn't stop it in its infant stage or its early stages, it just progressed. What would be any damn difference when you talk about slavery? And that you don't even want to talk about slavery, we're just going to talk about the institution of suppressing, exploiting, making profits, and basically just holding back a whole nation of people. So generation upon generation upon generation upon generation, the cause and effect. Whether it's today being the living descendancy and progenitors of what didn't happen before, it just fell upon you. It's like an insurance policy. The insurance policy was already made, and when it comes to fruition to pay, you become the beneficiary. You become the benefactor of it. You may didn't want it, but that's those people who are your people left the fuck shit to you. They left that fuck shit to you. And so you would tell me, charge it to the game so that you don't have to compensate because you feel like it's not yours. See, you play team when it comes to race against people, but boy, you become individuals when it starts to come to be accountable. Let me say that one more again. Oh, y'all love to play team sport when it comes to collectively to play race. But when it comes to accountability, you throw a motherfucker up under the bus. You throw your mom under the bus. You throw your daddy under the bus. What that got to do with me? You're the beneficiaries. You think all that profit and assets and stuff, has that been transferred? Or did it, when they died, it died too? Or did that go and hit to somebody? So the same thing here. If we've been inheriting nothing due to the disenfranchising and all that good stuff, and you sitting here and you're comfortable and my people are sitting out here being homeless and you're allowing other people to come and undermine me, bringing everybody up under here, you got nothing for, and you're going to sit here and tell me, just suck it up, buttercup. You know what I'm saying? What you complaining about? You could be over there swinging in the trees. It would be, guess what? All that shit y'all be talking about something, I try to say I wasn't going to cuss them, but hey, all this shit, I got to be real 100. All that shit, y'all want to talk about niggas swinging on damn trees and shit. They had everything. We didn't need nothing. Do you know what the hell y'all gonna tell everybody? Well, they was lazy. They're lazy. Well, we got everything. We ain't got to work hard for this. It's already up under the ground. But you got to tell it and put the mantra to make us be something bad so you could be the beneficiaries of it. And then you thought, was it gonna stay this way forever? Then eventually we're gonna grow up, we're gonna learn the game, because that's what the whole thing is about. When you're a child, you can get me when a child, right? You can fool. It's like saying you have brothers and sisters. I'm the uncle, I come by. I'm gonna give 3 kids. I'm gonna give each one y'all $20. I'm gonna give the oldest one the solid 20. I'm gonna give the next one 2 10s, right? No, I'm gonna give the baby a $20 bill. I'm gonna give the middle child 4 5s, and I'm gonna give the other one 2 10s, right? Now the baby is looking at, it's only $1 bill, right? It's a bill. It's a $20 bill. They're all equivalent in the same amount. But the baby, see, you got 4, the middle child, which is closer to, right? The oldest one know better. Got 2 10s. But the middle child got 4 5s. And the baby looking at it like, but you got 4 and I only got 1. So the little one being slick, you say, well, how about this? I give you 2 of mine for that 1 of yours. You give me 2 for the 1, I'll take that. Now the baby don't know the value of it, right? The baby don't know that the value that the $20 that he got is equivalent to the 4 he got. So you done conned them out of taking the 2 and taking the 1, right? And then you're gonna say you're gonna blame it to me because I didn't know no better. No, you just took advantage of the damn situation. That's what you did. You took advantage of the situation, and now you try to come play that game now. You can't give me that. Now that ain't the same. I'm up on the game now. You got me before when I was young, dumb, and full of cum. Now that I know the game, now that I'm awoke, now you don't want to play the game. You want to actually destroy the damn game now. You want to bring everybody else from around the world who's hungry, thirsty, tired, poor. Is that what you got up under that liberty? Give me your tired, give me your poor, give me, right? Bring all of them up under here, and then you make it where we can't work, we out of work, we outside. Then you're gonna make this a motherfucking third world country where we're gonna be in here fighting each other because you done destroyed the game. Because why? You would rather destroy the damn game than deal with us because we understand the game better now. Huh? Ain't that true? We understand the game better now. Now nobody wants to play with us. I got a couple messages here. I got Brother D said true reparation is separation, and this is what they will never allow. In the States, you experience blatant racism. In the UK, we experience underneath racism. WeBookie says, this war, they don't get it. They dead people are in the way. Ignorance is dangerous. Brother D says colonialism and multiculturalism are the ideals which they need in place because they profit and benefit from these systems every time. Anytime we try to do just us, it's a big problem every time. And WeBoogie minority is a mind condition, right? Minority also is in law, right? Meaning children. So when we play that game playing minority, they try to make it seem like we children of mind. See, think about it. They're the adults, and we the children. So that's slick talk what they do. When they say that minority just really mean they the parents and you the child. And when they say emancipation, that's what it is, right? A child emancipating from his parents. So they say we no longer having our financial obligations to you. We gonna cut you loose. Well, you never took care of in the first damn place, right? You didn't give a shit in the first damn place. And we're gonna keep the shit 100, right? But that's what some people like to. It sound good saying things, and then when you put it in and show it to them what they really ain't done, then they want to say you playing the race card or you stuck on that and we beyond past all that. You haven't been accountable for nothing. You don't take responsibility for nothing. But you sure like to blame. You like to tell everybody that they don't do, but it's you that don't do. It's you that ain't contributed to. If the world had to come to a big world picnic, what do white people bring to the table? Let me say that one more again. If there was a world picnic and everybody had to bring something to the table, what do white people want to do? They say, we managed it. That's what they're going to say. But we managed it, right? We managed, just like Phil Jackson. Well, shit, we Kobe and Shaq. We Michael and Scotty. Dude, they could have won without Phil Jackson. They try to act like they could have won without Phil Jackson. See, that's the mindset that you need that. No, they could win. They could figure it out. They were gonna win, right? They could win. They could put anybody there. If Doug Collins would have stayed with the Bulls, they was gonna win. All they're going to do is the same thing they was doing. They were building the team up. It was going to happen. It was going to manifest. Jordan was going to be Jordan. Scotty was going to be Scotty. It don't matter who you put in there. Shaq and Kobe was going to figure it out. It might have took them a little while, but they was going to get it. But eventually they was going to get it. But you see what I'm saying? But that's how they say, oh, we managed it. They'll tell you, we built this. But then you ask them, what did you build? Well, we can't see what we built. We just know that we built some shit, right? So I got to come on. WeBoogie said their appetite. War and religion, says Brother D. Exactly, right? Okay, so what that being said is, they good at that, man. They good at trying to tell you that you ain't done shit. But when you ask them what they done, they say, well, we went to the moon. But damn, I remember telling us in school you can't get past the Van Halen belt. So how the fuck did you get to the damn moon without blowing up? The time we really tried that shit, it blew the hell up for those who was around. Remember they hit that, everybody was in school and they watched the damn space shuttle go up and that motherfucker blew up because you really tried to go that time and that shit went boom, right? Blew that shit up. That shit, oh shit, they blew them up. Really try to go up there. You ain't seen nobody, because if you went up there, why you ain't showing it? You ain't shown nothing since you went up there, but you keep telling us. It's like the story of black people. They keep telling you, oh, I won't go there yet. We gonna wait. All right. So anyway, but with that being said, right, that's what it is, right? Y'all don't want to apologize. You don't want to make no accountability. You just want everybody charged to the game, and then you want to cry and say that because of the wokeness and because of the spreading, saying that y'all racist, that countries don't want to be subjugated to you anymore. Yeah, that's what happened with abuse, right? And that's what happened with some women, you know, maybe some men too. You know, you getting abused by somebody, and you don't want to be with them. You're trying to find a way to get away from their ass. You can only thrive without them. They feel like their sickness is you can't thrive because they say you got to stay next to them. We saying if I get the fuck away from you, I can show you I'm better than you. And that's what you're really scared of. Let me say that one more again. Their sickness is I need to keep you right here because see, you can't thrive. You can't go out there. You can't survive on your own. And I'm telling you, if you let me go, like James Brown said, leave the door open, I'll get it for myself. And then I'll show you. They say, what I think May said, give me the catalog, I'll show you how daddy ball, right? Give me the catalog and I'll show you how daddy ball. But nobody want to see you ball. Everybody gets off by seeing us in a fucked up ass position because it makes them feel better about themselves. You come from a third world country. You come here and telling yourself you outworking me, that we lazy, we ain't getting up. But we the adopted children that been here from the beginning with Satan and Miss Satan. We've been here from the beginning, so we try to tell you what the game is. You try to tell me something else. And so you come here, so that makes you feel like you some better than somebody else. And that's what everybody come here and do. You tell yourself you better because you got to believe all the stereotypes and all the bullshit propaganda in order to make yourself better so that you feel that you're above somebody. But with all that being said, when you look at our catalog, when I said when we come to the picnic, can't nobody outshine us about no contributions, no inventions, and what comes. Do you understand? All right. So let's move on. Ain't no more beat no more juice out of that one. Now, I seen this as well, right? Let me show you this here, right? So now I seen this here. Said the Pope voiced willingness to return indigenous loot artifacts, right? Let me say that one more again. Pope voices willingness to return indigenous loot and artifacts. Now, wait a minute. You want to return loot? Is that like money? Is that like money? Is that money? Artifacts. Now, I asked a question. Who is the indigenous of the Americas? Who are really the indigenous of America? Because I know there's some game being played. There's people who they call natives, right? Right? And then they got another story that a lot of people apply or subscribe to. They call about the transatlantic slave trade. But yet, if this was a court case, they ain't got no proof, right? Right? And then you got another people that come from on the Mexico side that said that they are also the people that used to be, right? So there's three people vying for, and yet, if I say the word indigenous, who are the indigenous people around the world? And if there are indigenous people, why they don't still look the way they did from the beginning? What got in you that changed up their look? So if you telling me you're indigenous, and if we want to say that the first people on the planet had to be a people of color or melanin, then how does a light, bright person tell me they indigenous? You may have some in your biology makeup, but you are not those original people. And for some odd reason, none of them really subscribe to that, but they will argue you down, but it ain't you. And they tell us they ain't racist. Now, you might be more of the colonizers' children that may once upon a time may have an ancestor in there. That's like telling Black Americans to trace the African in your, if you say 1619 to now, which is 400 plus years, 404 years, and you just go back and try to find the African that came from on that boat, that story, if you want to believe, that's one African out of how many people you got in your lineage that gonna erase that one African, and then y'all trying to make us to be Africans. Because they think we can't really find, they don't think, for some odd reason, most people come here thinking that we don't know our damn family. They believe everything everybody else tells them, but when we tell them, we can't be telling the truth. That's how they act. They're like, we don't be telling the damn truth. We the only ones don't know who we are. We just here. But everybody can tell us our story, but when we start telling our story, don't you say nothing. Don't tell me. Let us tell it for you. Like, that's how they do. And so let me see. We Boogie got some. He says it's not skin tone alone. We got war on many fronts. So it's prioritizing the offensive. The mental exodus is off top, like Brother D was saying, separate and guard intellectual theft. Okay. Not skin tone alone. You remember in the Matrix, right? You remember in the Matrix when Neo had to fight all those agents? That's what you're talking about. We got so many fights, we can't focus on one. And that's to keep you off balance. You get what I'm saying? If you fighting this and then you got to turn around here, it's like watching a Kung Fu movie. You always wonder why they all just didn't bum rush it. Why they all sit there and let him dance, then he come in and let him dance. You know what I'm saying? They taking time. Then everybody just bum rush his ass, and then y'all can whoop him, right? But they know they can't bum rush it because what end up happening is something spiritual gonna happen. So they have to take their time coming at us, right? So we do have so many fights on the front. I get what you're saying, and I agree with you on that, right? And our intellectual theft, I mean, they done stole everything. There's every theft they done damn stole. They just that. It's all kind of shit they steal. But let me show you something here. I want y'all to hear this here. Now, he says that he's willing to return indigenous loots and artifacts. Okay, you talking about you want to return something, right? Give me all. Give me, you know what I'm saying? If somebody took something of yours, I want my land back, right? I want everything. No. Giving means everything. There ain't no partial, ain't no stipulations to it. It's either all or nothing. But I want y'all to hear this and be right back. Pope voices willingness to return indigenous loot, artifacts. Let me say that one more again. Pope voices willingness to return indigenous loot, artifacts. Aboard the papal plane, the Pope Francis said Sunday that talks were underway to return colonial era artifacts in the Vatican Museum that were acquired from indigenous people in Canada, and voiced a willingness to return other problematic objects in Vatican's collection on a case-by-case basis. The seventh commandment comes to mind. If you steal something, you have to give it back, Francis said during an airborne press conference en route home from Hungary. Recently, Francis returned to Greece. The three fragments of the Pantheon sculptures that had been in the Vatican Museum collection for 2 centuries. The Pope said Sunday that the restitution was the right gesture, and that when such returns were possible, museums should undertake them. In the case where you can return things where it is necessary to make a gesture, better do it, he said. Sometimes you can't if there are no possibilities, political, real, or concrete possibilities, but in the cases where you can restitute, please do it. It's good for everyone. So you don't get used to putting your hands in someone else's pocket. His comments to the Associated Press was his first on a question that has forced many museums in Europe and North America to rethink their ethnographic and anthropological collection. The restitution debate has gathered steam and amid reckoning for the colonial conquest of Africa, the Americas, and Asia, and demands for restitution of war loot by the countries and communities of origin. The Vatican has an extensive collection of artifacts and art made by indigenous people from around the world, much of it sent to Rome by Catholic missionaries from a 1925 exhibition in the Vatican Garden. The Vatican insists the artifacts, including ceremonial masks, wampum belts, and feathered headdresses, were gifts. But indigenous scholars dispute whether native people at the time could have freely offered their handicraft given the power differential at play in colonial periods. Francis, the first ever Latin American Pope, knows the history well. Last year, he traveled to Canada to personally apologize to indigenous people for abuses they endured at the hands of Catholic missionaries at residential schools. In the run-up to the visit, indigenous groups visit the Vatican's Amina Amunda Museum, saw some of their ancestors' handiwork, and expressed interest in having greater access to the collection and the return of some items. The restitution of the indigenous things is underway with Canada. At least we agreed to do it, Francis said, adding that the Holy See experience meetings with the indigenous groups in Canada had been very fruitful. Indeed, just a few weeks ago, in another follow-up to the Canada apology, the Vatican formally repudiated the Doctrine of Discovery. This theory, backed by 15th century papal bulls, was used to legitimize the colonial era seizure of native lands and forms the basis of some property laws today in the U.S. and Canada. Francis recalled that looting was a common feature during colonial era wars and occupation. They took these decisions to take the good things from the others, he said. He said, going forward, museums have to make a discernment in each case, but that where possible, restitution of objects should be made. And if tomorrow the Egyptians come and ask for the obelisk, what will we do? He said, chuckling, referring to the great obelisk that stands at the center of St. Peter's Square. The Roman Emperor Caligula brought the ancient obelisk to Rome more than 2,000 years ago, and it was moved to the square in the 16th century. Vatican museums are mentioned in the 2020 book, The British Museum, which recounts the sacking of the royal court of Benin City by British forces in 1897, and the subsequent dispersal in museum and collections around the globe of its famed Benin bronzes. In the appendix, the Vatican is listed as one of the museums, galleries, or collections that may have objects looted from Benin City in today's Nigeria in 1897. The Vatican Museum has responded to the request for information. The Nigerian embassy to the Holy See, asked recently about the claim, said its contact in the Vatican is currently looking into the issue. Hey, you sitting here watching the video. Why you sitting there? Put your hand on that like button, click it, thumbs it up, share this video, comment. You can like or dislike it. We don't care about that. And also, if you ain't over here and subscribe, what you waiting on? Get yourself over there and subscribe to get on up to WeUpReport so you can stay up, because we're going to keep you up. That's how you help keep this channel going. You can also do some monetary donations. We'll tell you about that later. But right now, wake yourself up, like, share, and comment. And don't forget, when you subscribe on that button, hit that put all notifications. You know how YouTube get down. We are back, right? So let me see, I got a message up here. Got the brother here, We Boogie for this. Is attorney to ruddy Mexicans of today. Is a mixture of Spanish crown, trans-Pacific slave trade, Filipinos, Indians, Melanesians, Koreans, booty. This mix is the mestizos the world acknowledged as Latinos. Okay, all right. There's some information there about We Boogie coming in, dropping them jewels and everything for everybody. Appreciate that, there, young brother. So we see that the Vatican is talking about they want to give some stuff back, right? Returns of colonial era artifacts, right? And so again, then that Vatican Museum. Now, some people know that I remember one time they was doing some kind of a show where they were showing in the undergrounds of the Vatican that go miles and miles and miles down. So we have to say the Vatican, matter of fact, let me show you what that museum, I think they consider this to be the museum. So let me show you what it looked like. I'm gonna put that on the screen there, right? So I think they saying that's the museum, right? And so you would think, as indigenous people, a lot of the artifacts and things that had been looted, like you say, the word loot mean they stole, right? Like with Biggie, give me the loot, give me the loot, give me the loot, give me the loot, right? They've been stealing, robbing from all around the world, just like King Charles and them and their empire, which is really off of what comes from out of that Catholicism, right? And as they talked about that papal bull, which I'll get into. So they've been stealing the artifacts and putting in what they so-called in museum. Now, I did the show about that where they went to Canada. Now, the question I want to ask y'all again, who are the indigenous people? Boogie just told you, he told you there's some mixes of people, right? That mestizos and stuff like that, right? There's been some mixes, add-ons and so forth. And okay, so that's who they deem it as that. Are indigenous people the melanated people around the world? Are they the first people, or are they trying to say that these other people, again, it's not about being divisive. They're not trying to sit here and try to say that people aren't who they are. But can light people create a heavy melanated people is the question. Or are some people subscribing to the Bible talking about cursing Ham, right? That's teacher's own. I'm not here to tell you whether to believe it. I'm just saying, is that what you're subscribing to? That cursed people are the ones that end up having the melanated skin? And if that's not what you subscribe to, then you have to ask yourself, then how did the melanated people come first? And that means that people who are of a lighter hue have to be some kind of, I don't know if we want to say recess, right? Something that of recessive genes, or something that mutated, right? Or is there, are they an original people from the beginning? And they would say they are. It's just like that. Which of Egypt is arguing to say that Cleopatra is not black, that she's white, right? He's going all out and going to make that become a case. So if that being said, depending on the position that one's take, and the people of melanin are the indigenous people, then how is it that when the Pope, when he did his tour about indigenous, he only went to Canada? And in Canada, let me show you who they showed. Watch this and be right back.
Pope Francis presiding over the second and final Mass of his Canadian tour, with the service Thursday at the Basilica of Saint Anne de Beaupré outside of Quebec City.
Au nom du Père et du Fils et du Saint-Esprit.
The theme, reconciliation. Hundreds of Indigenous peoples, including residential school survivors, gathered inside to hear the message firsthand.
In confronting the scandal of evil and the body of Christ wounded in the flesh of our Indigenous brothers and sisters, we too have experienced deep dismay. We too feel the burden of failure.
Just before the Pope's first words, a brief protest saw a banner with the words, "Rescind the doctrine," unfurled on the floor of the Basilica. Demonstrators are demanding the Pope renounce 15th century edicts known as the Doctrine of Discovery that the papacy used to justify the taking of indigenous land. It wasn't immediately clear if the Pope saw the message. Outdoor viewings of the Mass also shown on big screens in the Quebec City area. While the Pope received a warm welcome from some Thursday morning, others want more from the head of the Catholic Church.
He didn't apologize of the Catholic Church running the 60% of the residential, over 60% of the residential. He didn't apologize for that. He came here, I don't know, and asking for forgiveness. I don't know, no, not for me anyways.
Politicians, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, were also in attendance for the Mass.
And a day after Trudeau met privately with the Pope, he says they discussed the importance of the Roman Catholic Church's role, their continued work with Indigenous peoples to advance healing and reconciliation. And the PM says the need for the Church to take real, concrete action. Now, I want to go back to that protest banner, the message that they were carrying there. Now, back in 2018, the Assembly of First Nations actually looked ahead to this papal visit with something called the Dismantling the Doctrine of Discovery report. Now, in it, they write, how is it possible that any pope, king or queen or explorers from Europe could discover lands in the New World if indigenous peoples were already occupying such lands according to our own laws and legal orders. They go on to say it is the hope of AFN that when Pope Francis comes to Canada, he will publicly renounce discovery. And time is running out. The Pope travels to Iqaluit Friday for his final stop before heading back home to the Vatican. Melissa Duggan, City News.
We back, right? All right, I got a message here from, let's see what I got from We Boogie. Cole Parsons, Negro, put that into play. Okay, Cole Part is Negro, put that into play. Okay. I'm going to put that up there on the screen so everybody can see what he just said here. Okay. All right, so that's from We Boogie. Okay. Now, that, again, that was the Pope doing a tour that he went to Canada to talk to, as he said, they said the indigenous people to give them back, as you heard in that article that I read about the artifacts and the loot. But did you notice that the people, as the individual that was sitting there speaking, saying that he was like, he don't know what he came here to apologize for, he want forgiveness from him? He said, I'm the wrong one, don't ask me about that. Now, what he was going there for, as you seen, they had a sign up there saying, rescind the doctrine, right? The doctrine, remember that is the one that they use to go around the world from the papal bull that was given to Spain and Portugal, right? Them the verses and so forth and things like that. And they use that that was for the let's say for the Catholicism. That was from them. How did these other ones get involved in that is what you got to ask yourself. How did those who are not part of the Spain and Portugal get in the game? Well, they use discovery doctrine, the doctrine of discovery. That's how they got in the game. Because what a lot of people don't understand is discovery means something, and that has something to do with a game that is, again, those who see my video about standard of civilization. And in that standard of civilization, Europeans have a game that doctrine of, I think it's what they call it, right of the, I think it's called right of conquest, right? The right of conquest. And in that right of conquest, that's how they're able to do this discovery doctrine, which I'll get into that, but we're going to talk first about this Pope business, right? Talk about this Pope business first. Now, think about that. You talking about you want to give back. And y'all trying to say that that's what y'all really trying to do. But are you really trying to give back? Because in order to give back, you have to give back everything. Not just give me the artifacts, not just give me the stuff that you stole. The main thing is land. The land thing, I mean, the main thing is that's what it's all about. It's always been about that. It's been that somebody must feel like they didn't have nothing, and the only way they can do it is through quest of, they say, the right of conquest. And then the right of conquest means if I beat you with my military, subjugate you, and then establish the government in the League of Europeans, this is called legal. This is why they don't never want to admit nothing. This is why they'll look you dead in your face and tell you to get over it, and they'll tell you there's no white supremacy. But the linchpin is that doctrine of discovery. Matter of fact, that doctrine of discovery became what they call public international law. So there's private international law, and then there's public international law. And how they legitimize it in this country is because the Supreme Court sanctioned it. Let me say that one more again. The doctrine of discovery, based on a game that's played by the European people who plays in that game. They call it a public international law, that those who play upon it, and they use the right of conquest. So when they go to these lands and they subjugate the indigenous people with their military, other European nations will consider that to be legal in their game, and that's how they rule. Yeah, that's how they've been ruling. Now, they keep telling us that we came on a boat, but yet you'll get people who come here from other places and say they ain't never even heard of us until they got here. That we are mystery to a lot of them, okay? And then when people who subscribe to Pan-Africanism and things of that, it's not as we as Black Americans and touch as indigenous of the Americas. And they could be all even those of the Caribbeans, right? Now there are some that may have came from Africa, but if you've been on this planet for eons, uncountable, why do everybody try to subscribe that we were only in one damn place? We as a people who live amongst, let's say today, looking at how that the communities, we can't even keep all those who are educated, those who are those with some kind of status. They don't even live around the regular folks of their own people. So what would make y'all think that on a continent that people didn't spread out all over the damn world and move about? And so you give them the blank tabula rasa, which is a blank sheet of paper, and allow them to say that the people who they made up and said that these people over here is anybody but Negroes. Anything could be. See, he went around the world, but he never showed you indigenous people other than those in Africa. Everybody give the African that, but anywhere else, you're not indigenous. They got some other looking people who know they mixes of other people. As Wee Boogie said, you're mixes of other people, but you're pretending to, well, I ain't gonna say pretending, that's what your ideology, that's what you believe. But y'all must don't subscribe to the fact that people of melanin had to be the original people. And so how did you get this lighter hue looking? That means there was some admixtures along as time went on. So as many people that had to tell the Black Americans in this country that the reason why we look the way we look is because we had white people. Well, check this out. If you ever seen a person who has a mama and daddy, let's say one black and one white, and look how they look? So how's the black people who've been in this country as long as y'all said we've been in here and we still holding on to our melanin? But these other people who say they was here before, they look how they look. So how is it that those Spaniards, when they first came here, said they seen copper colored people? When you go look up in the, I think it's the, what is it, the 54, what is it, 1716, 54, Webster Dictionary, American is a copper colored people. Well, how these people who today, they ain't got no copper in them, and yet Black Americans still holding on that copper to this day, variations of that copper look. And you telling us that we got to subscribe to some story that y'all can't prove because it keep coming in the book telling that you brought us from someplace, and yet who else could it be? Just like the people in the Caribbeans, right? They keep telling you the number used to be 100 million people they brought across the Atlantic slave trade. Now that number done boiled down and boiled down. Well, that means somebody's been lying, right? Somebody's been lying. And who benefits to make you not? And why do you subscribe so hard against Black Americans to make them to be the worst? You try to incarcerate them. You try to do all these things to them, but you tell them that them are the ones you brought from another country. Man, you better look at that real good, y'all. Look at it real good. Because somebody might be, three-Kamali us. Because in order for them to prove what they say, they got to prove it. Because if you go in your lineage of your family and trace back, you ain't going to find the African. They got to pull the African to disprove it. So until then, you are the indigenous of this country. Now everybody else is coming in here. It's kind of like in Egypt. I remember, what was his name? I forgot the Nasser. I think his name was Nasser. He said the Egyptians left black and then they come back looking white. Y'all remember that? Anybody remember see that? When Nasser said he said the Israelites left black, they came back looking white. So people can lose their melanin, but then how'd you lose your melanin unless you mix with other people who are melaninless? That doesn't, again, I guess it's different hues of melanin, right? There's 1 through 5, I think, or 1 through 4, something like that, right? And this pale melanin and so forth, or sulfur and all that. But you get what I'm saying, right? So these people here who are more fair skinned, and here we is holding the melanin, we still holding, and everybody keep telling us that the white man is all up in us, but we still hold on. So how much white man is in you? I know. This is not politically correct. I know it's not politically correct. But the point is, let's look at this. Let's get into it. Let me go ahead and get into this. So we can get out here. I'm already at the 2:30 mark, right? So I'm at the 2 mark. All right. So now we got to look at it like this. Okay. I got a comment here. Hold on. Got a comment. Wee Boogie said the name and remaining of land masses is the spell of covering up colonization and gentrification of people and their lands by a hidden partnership of the so-called dark and pale people. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, changing names. I mean, you think about Black Americans, how many times did they change the name? So when you keep changing names, that means you're trying to hide something. But everybody's trying to go with the obvious because they try to say Africa is the motherland. Africa is where we all come from, right? But could it possibly be the migration went from west to east? Could it ever have been that the migration went from west to east? Why are you looking at east to west? And yet, when you look at some of the, as they talk about the artifacts and things that have been built, who, according to these, the way that they're trying to, let's say, carbon date, and they look at these structures and they start saying that the things that's more over on this side of the of the world are older than that which was on the other side. So how is that possible? How can it be older over here? And yet you said that by the time that the whole, I guess you say, migration from the east to west, and then when the white man come, he's saying it was just land barren of some people that came from the Barren Straits, and they've been here 10,000 years, and they ain't built nothing. They were still living in teepees. Huh? Think about that. You've been here 10,000 years, and you're still living in teepees. Get out of here, man. See, there's some missing in that story somewhere that somebody don't want to espouse to us. So maybe you just a patsy that they took you from somewhere else, had you here, because we're going to rewrite this story, because these people here, we're going to mix them up. Because maybe what happened is they took the elders of us and spread them around and kept the children in one particular place. And then the children that don't, again, think about being children, teenagers, you don't have any elders, so you don't have no history. So you only know about where you is, kind of like those of DACA, right? And those are first generations that come here and they become citizens, and then you get acclimated, going to school and hanging with other people. You only know about what you know from your experience. You don't have any roots going back. So I'm saying, guess what? Maybe that's what happened. Because when you start tracing, you'll find that it get to a point where you'll find relatives that were a bunch of children somewhere in one of these little places. I don't know whether they, if they are considered plantations or not, but they something. Matter of fact, when I think about that, you know, when the Pope went over to Canada, he wasn't really trying to get them back. He was over there to apologize, technically, for having them residential schools, where he was having them going in there. That's what we're doing. Let me show you in the doctrine. But it's called the Doctrine of Discovery, 1493, right? Oh, wait a minute, you going way back there? Hey, A is for apple, A is the beginning, A is the alpha. So if anything you're trying to resolve and get to the truth, you must get to the beginning of the cause and the effect. Now, in 1493, they called it the Doctrine of Discovery. And this doctrine that they used was set up by the Vatican Pope, right? When it was a papal bull that was written that gave jurisdiction to those, when we're talking about, say, Spain and Portugal, right? When we're talking about, again, colonization, when we're talking about imperialism. But let me show you what the justification was in this doctrine. Let me see if I can show you this, right? So as you see on your screen, it says, however, if the indigenes have advanced beyond the state of nature, only so far as to have developed language and the community of the family, but no further, if they had not yet mixed their labor with the earth in any permanent way, or the regions were literally unattained, then Europeans considered it to be terra nullis. It's a belonging to no one, to which they might gain permanent title by first discovery and effective occupation. This is the mindset that those who set up the doctrine, how they're able to come into the territories of what we call the Americas and any other place. It was under this doctrine that they use, in the mindset that they had and have, is how they was able to justify what they say. So what are they saying, Mr. Bro, you mind? You know, over here where we go, blue, 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 blue. When I say blue, 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 that means there used to be, when I was coming up, there was cartoons that come on called Two Little Indians. And one of the Indians could speak English and the other one spoke blah, 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 blah. And every time they had to ask him what would him say, he was the interpreter. So I'm going to be the interpreter for what I just read to you. Some of that might be blah, 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 to you. So I have to interpret to the best of my ability, right? So what they saying is that those be the indigenous of the lands that they had accosted and come upon. And they was like, well, if they were only, let's say, using nature and they had families, right? That's natural. That's what everyone around this globe does. But yet they think you barbarians and savages. But if you had that much, that's okay. But if you didn't use the permanent, if you didn't build structures, if you didn't have something that I'm still trying to figure out those from at that particular time, what civilization going back in the antiquities of Europe, what structures are there other than they talk about Rome and how that's all bombed up and blown up, right? But anyway, here's the doctrine they saying is, well, if we go around the world and if we go to these people who we consider indigenous, but if they don't have any structures that show some civilization, it allows us under our doctrine to be able to go amongst these people and we can claim first dibs and say, we discovered it. This is what they said. I didn't say that. You seen it right there on your screen. I didn't make that up. I didn't type that up. This is where they come with that, right? So with that being said, and now we in the day and age now, and they say it's 2022. People are saying they're trying to make curves straight. They're trying to put the round peg with the round peg, right? Trying to make everything fit according, not the old square peg in a round hole. We're trying to make things straight and right. At least that's what people are professing and saying. But let's look at this, because you have people. We talk about here in the United States, and knowing they have origins of other places come here and think that somehow this game that they're playing gives them some kind of rights over people who are, according to this, indigenous. And if you're an indigenous person, that means you should be having first dibs. You should be running what it is, but they don't give it to you in that more formal fashion, do they not? But under the doctrine of them going around and discovering, well, they said that they didn't build. But there's some of our brothers and sisters in this black corner of the internet that we call YouTube who teach and tell you and show you that we had structures. There were buildings here and places and all around. But what ended up happening to them is also going to be a mystery in history. So let me show you some of the other verbiage that they use when they want to legitimize this. Check this out, right? They'll say something to the fact like, it says now I can't really see this, but the bull stated that the bull is going to be the doctrine that the Pope had wrote that's going to justify Doctrine of Discovery. So the papal bull was the decree that was written by the Pope of that particular time. And the bull stated that any land not inhabited by who? Christians. Let me say that one more again. The bull stated that any lands not inhabited by Christians was available to be what? Discovered, claimed, exploited by Christian rulers, and declared that the Catholic faith and the Christian religion be exalted and be everywhere. It reared and spread, that the health of souls be cared for, and that the barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to the faith itself. The Doctrine of Discovery became the basis of all European claims in the Americas, as well as the foundation for the United States Western expansion. Do I need to read this one more again? Do I need to read that again? The bull stated that any lands not inhabited by Christians was available to be discovered. So what are you saying? What are you saying, Mr. Blow Your Mind? Well, according to this Papa Bull says that the lands that they would approach, the lands that came off the water, the lands that they came on, that they seen people that were not deemed as what? Because a lot of y'all let us say, I'm Christian, I's a Christian, I's a Christian. Yeah, but Christian don't mean the same thing that you mean in 2022 what a Christian is. What did a Christian mean back in 1493? What did it mean? Did it mean the same thing that you think in this day? Because I know going back some time back, I remember say, what's your Christian name, boy? What did that mean, boy? Huh? What did Christian mean? Boy, it don't mean that thing because you went in that church and you was opening that Bible and you was reading, it meant something entirely different. A Muslim meant something that had something with race. But you ain't hear me though. You ain't hear me though. So anyway, so a Christian was again available. If you're a Christian and you discovered lands, you get to claim it, you get to exploit it, you get to make and declare. And everybody who you come in contact at this time, because it is the Pope, that means Catholicism. So that means that the Catholic faith would be the predominant, let's say, religion that you would take on these people. And you would put this everywhere that was upon on this land. Because these people have been deemed and stamped barbarous. Right? They've been barbarous named, and so the doctrine of discovery came into existence. It became, as they say, you see in I underlined in red, the basis of all Europeans' claim in the Americas, as well as the foundation for the United States Western expansion. So this is the beginning, what we're talking about when we go back in history, as we're going to do, and then we're going to get to, because remember, I am talking about, what am I talking about? Remember, I'm talking about this. Rescind the doctrine. You got to rescind the doctrine. If you're going to get anything right, you're going to have to rescind the doctrine. All right? So I went back a bit. That's one of my, when I go back over some of the stuff I already did, so I don't have to say it again. Now, that was just going back on something I had already kind of reiterated a little bit. Now, the thing is, that's what that doctrine is. Now, you got to remember, the Pope was doing his tour. They put out there, rescind the doctrine, but he ignored it. Because why? That's the linchpin to how they're able to rule these lands. Because Catholicism used the papal bull, done the verses, right? That's how they did it. They was doing it under that. And then the other ones was using the right of discovery that gave them legitimacy. Now, the Supreme Court end up in here. Now, think about how they rigged the game. In order to make that legitimate in this country, they had to make the Supreme Court make Doctrine of Discovery to legitimize it. But do you know that, what I think was a Genghis? Okay, matter of fact, hold on, before I go there. Let me see. Can you see this one? Let's see. All right. Says, indeed, just a few weeks ago, in another follow-up to the Canada apology, the Vatican formally repudiated the Doctrine of Discovery. This theory, like by the 15th century papal bull, was used to legitimize the colonial area seizures of native lands and form the basis of some property laws today in the U.S. and Canada. So they're saying, now check this out. The Pope and them actually has renounced that what they did. They're saying, hey, what they used to do what they did, we don't give sanction to that. They actually said that what they did was they made that political. They changed the Doctrine of Discovery, in which is really, again, remember saying, it was a public international law, which is the game that the Europeans played. And then they make that to be legitimized through the game that those players are playing. And then when they go colonize you and make sure you can't have no military to fight them, you become subjugated. And they use really like property law is how they're really doing all this. That's what they're doing. They use the property law. And so the Pope is saying he's willing to give back artifacts and loot but they're not ready to give back the main prize. See? And I hear a lot of my brothers and sisters in here who talk about certain things. And what I'm saying is, I hear y'all about how y'all think they're going to relinquish and give it back and that you're going to run this. But with that game being said, and those who are running to Africa, if you can't understand what's going to happen as time go on over there and how it's already set up like in chess, and you running with your whole family over there, know what you're running into. I mean, they got the whole game rigged as a one big plantation. So you may think the grass is greener over somewhere else, and you're thinking that you can, start all over and build up there. But they got the warehouse. They got everything the world needs. And don't you see each one of them is plant themselves over there? You got China in there, Russia in there, France in there. You get what I'm saying? Everybody is setting up in posts in there. And could that ever be good? Knowing how things work as we have been and what we go through and what we've been enduring for generation of generation. Do you think that that's a good? You think that's good? Or is that something like chess or move they can't see? I'm not wishing nothing bad on them. We all family, but again, you gotta call it for what you see it. And once you understand how this game is being played, you play it a little better. But I think what happens is we don't really want to get in depth and understand how they've really been manipulating doing this and realize, guess what? This is the way the game plays. This here, that whole doctrine. So it's all a false game. It never was legitimate. It's only legitimate because what they say, they can't, you had the land, they came with the Bible and the gun, right? Gave you the Bible, they got the land, they still kept the gun. Right? So you got to figure out as time goes on how you going to deal with this. That's just the bottom line. So for him to say he repudiates something, that don't mean nothing. To say he repudiate don't mean nothing. Give it back. They're not going to never give it all back. You know what I'm saying? Remember what Charleston Heston said? Not out of my cold dead hand. Remember that? Not out of my cold dead hand. We Boogie said Pan-African fight is death a scam. Fam, we are not the running type. Okay, right. I agree with you. Again, those are the Pan-African. I hear what their cry is. I hear what their stance is. But really, when you think about it, if Pan-African started from here and then start over there, then it's predicated on whether we support it fully. And if we don't fully support it, then how's it going to really manifest itself? Yeah, they're picking up and they're trying to do it. And it seems like the shift game is to get us to remove ourselves here, to go over there. But then the story that they told us, did anybody think that that can happen again? Do you ever want to be so outnumbered that everybody know you ain't who you are? Don't that sound like how it happened the first damn time when they tell you they sold you, and yet you going back over there to be All right, I ain't gonna. Let me cut it out. Let me just cut it out. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave that alone. Leave that alone. But anyway, right? So, let's go here because that's what this is, man. It's kind of like Pope went over there really to apologize for the fact that they had them residential schools, right? When they was taking their babies, kind of what Wee Boogie was saying. What they do to get your babies, see, that's why there's such this propaganda at your babies to get your babies to not be men, so they can be other things, which is dealing with your procreation and flooding you up to really dilute you, right? You're the one been steadfast. You've been the only linchpin that actually the only one who's been doing any steadfast fighting when it comes to all the people around the world. I mean, there are conclaves of different peoples on different geographical locations, but the most known one is right here. Matter of fact, ironically, I had just seen an article talked about how the UN was here doing a tour about what was with the George Floyd and some other things. And at the same time, what happened with Jordan Neely, they were here to see that, and they were here about the whole brutality. See, the thing is with the UN is even whether they make some determination of finding, they don't have the military to do anything to enforce it. So what good is it to have all that and you can't enforce nothing? See, again, going back to the right of discovery. Without military, you can't do nothing, right? So you just got to accept it for what it is. So with those schools, they were taking them young ones, right? They had schools like this. You take them in them schools, and they go in there and they wash your mind. See, it's like a lot of our people, they go to college, get on the degrees, and they feel like I got degrees, and so I'm kundalai, I know more than you. Yeah, you know what they taught in them schools. You got the education that come out of them curriculums, and you're going to do accordingly to facilitate the profession of the steps that they given you. But sometimes you can get lost in the sauce where you done lost your common sense about things and you don't even see the angles. And see, when you from the ground looking up, you see everything. But when you from the ground, high above the ground, sometimes you don't even see the things that should be seen. So that's why sometimes of us from the ground, where they say the grassroots, we see, and that's when we cry loud, spare not, and they try to make sure to suppress us because we saying things that those in our professions can't say. And so they suppress them so we can't be heard. So they use these schools just like they did with the residential schools. And what they do is they bring you up in there and then they'll do something like this to you. Huh? They'll do this to you. Huh? You go in before the program, you look like that. And when they get done with your ass, you look like that. Huh? Let me say that one more again. You'll go into the program looking like that. And when they get done with your ass, you're going to look like that. Huh? Matter of fact, then we just see something about the brat now. Want to make sure that the baby got some white sperm because the only one black dude that you could find was Jimmy the Cricket, right? But you know what I'm saying? So there's some of us who got that in us. Some of them try to suppress it. Some of them think they can hide it. But this is what ended up happening. You see how he looked? Came in like that. But when they get done, reprogram, retooling you, you're going to look just like him, kind of like a Sammy Sosa. I mean, we can probably name quite a few people, but that's what that is, right? It happens. We know that it happens, right? And so, but that's probably what they did, like you said, Wee Boogie. They had them too. But you know, when you talk about the United States, see, the Pope never did come here. Why didn't the Pope come here when he talked about indigenous and giving back their stuff? Is there a secret here about who really the indigenous that the Pope know? Now, those of you who are avid watchers of my show, remember I did the Pope's letter to black people. And remember what the Pope's letter talked about? Now what the Pope's letter said about the fraud in this whole game and that what happened to the black people of this country and what had been taken. So he ain't been back here ever since. It's like he can't come back here for some odd reason. But those who didn't see that. But I got one more other thing to show you, which is what they said in this papal, in this here, in the AD 1537. Did y'all see that? Did you ever heard of that before? You ever heard of this before? It's called Pope Paul III opposes enslaving native peoples. Now again, are we the native? Well, it's native. Native is different than indigenous. That's the trick. So now today you go in there and look at native is synonymous with indigenous, right? They're synonymous. They're the same. But is a native person and indigenous person the same? But if you're looking at today's, and then I guess you get to have, your publications going back and seeing how they changed it. But look what he said for this here. He said Pope Paul III issued a decree called Sublimis Deus, opposing the enslavement of indigenous people and calling them true men. This papal bull became the policy of Spain's leader, but conquistadors and colonists break with it. Conquistadors and colonists break with it. In the Americas, the Spanish used various official means to subjugate native people, what they call the royal encomiendo, which is tribute paid to the Spanish crown for profits from forced labor, reparamento, forced labor, and haciendo and rancho land grants. The said Indians and all other people who may later be discovered by Christians. What do you mean by other peoples? Said Indians and all other people. Who's all other peoples? Indians and all other people. All these, is they all considered indigenous, or Indians and other people are different? But anyway, are by no means to be deprived of their liberty or possession of their property, even though they be outside of the faith of Jesus Christ, and that they may and should freely, legitimately enjoy their liberties and possessions of their property, nor should they be in any way enslaved. Should the contrary happen, it shall be null and have no effect. Now, this came from them, which trumped what originally had happened. So if that be the case, but see, the problem is they can't enforce it. So when you go back and if you see the video I did about the Pope's letter, he called somebody the rogue nation. Somebody's a rogue. And if you're a rogue, it means you ain't following, you ain't subscribing to nobody, you're doing what you want. But a lot of people like to say, we got the biggest military, we the world great. And I guess that's probably why, because they say, you gonna have to, again, out my cold dead hands. If y'all want this back, you gonna have to take it out my cold dead hands. But the problem is, who really got the claim here? And if you're filling it up with all kind of different peoples who all been, again, just like you seen the residential school, they're around there programming everybody. So you got people coming back here saying that they were the descendants of the people that was here. Then you got another people who on the reservation saying they the descendant of the people. Now you got Black Americans. So what are they setting up? And then you got other people who coming from the continent coming here who want to cloak in and be. So what's gonna happen when they pull the plug in the rug economically and leave everybody here saying that it's gonna be like, what's gonna happen here, y'all? What's gonna happen? So WeBoogie said code name for indigenous is pagan. I thought pagan just meant country dwelling, one, you know, the country dwellers. And from a religious, they say that, right? They say that pagan is the country dwellers, but you may have something entirely different. But anyway, so anyway, with that being said, right? Did you see at the bottom of it says region, Caribbean, Southeast, and Southwest, but don't say here in the Americas. North. Why I don't mention that? There's something secretive here, and woke got something to do with bringing that up. And so the assassination attempt that was happening that tried to wipe out, because remember they told us in that story that they gave somebody blankets and that blanket wiped them all out, but we all lived to see the day after we all seen a global attempt and we all still here. So that tells you that that story, even though they sell it, cannot be factual. Think about that. It's one thing to have read the story at one time and said they gave blankets and they had I guess, I don't know if they said smallpox or whatever was in the blanket, and that ended up wiping them out, right? We was here in 2020, starting from March 13, 2020, right? And we endured what they said went global, and we here to talk about it. So if we here for this, who was left after that? Is anybody left? No? Okay. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe, maybe not. So you tell me, man, you know, giving back. If you're going to give something back, give it all back or don't do none at all. See, people want to play with you, but they ain't really meaning it. It's just a pacifier to a crying baby. Make the baby think he getting something. And after a while, baby suck that pacifier, it recognize it ain't getting nothing either, just the motion. So a lot of things that they seem to be doing, they're trying to make some progression, might just be a motion, just to stall time into whatever they really got, because we all feel something coming. We know something taking place, and it's something to do with economics. It's something to do, you get what I'm saying? And it's something to do with pulling the rug and then leaving everybody to fend in basically a dog eat dog survival. Because if you bring a lot of people who came here thinking they come for a better life, and then you pull the rug on them and then they have to be out here to survive, you think crime high now? You think some of the stories you're seeing now? Then we gotta ask yourself, who really playing this game? Well, I'm your host, Mr. Blows Your Mind. This has been another We Up Report. I'd like to thank each and every one of y'all who came here, because I'm going to eventually go ahead and bring that phone back out. I wasn't even done talking yet. Just slow your roll, man. I know you're ready to eat. Slow up. So again, I don't. We just gotta, we anticipate something is happening. Don't know what is happening, but I just felt like when they came with that when they say 1619, and then when it turned 2019, those of us who gave, let's say, praise and honor and start conjuring up and giving remembrance to our ancestors in this land, there was a spirit that overtook this place. It was something, a phenomenon was happening. Remember that was said about in the Willie Lynch letter, and some of them say that that's not real or whatever, but in the Willie Lynch letter, it said that the only thing that would break the Willie Lynch, the Willie Lynch would only be broken if a phenomenon happened. Oh, a phenomenon came, y'all. And they had to put a stop on it. That's why they had to put the brakes on it. You ain't figured it out yet. Go back and look at something, because you had politicians saying out their mouth. Never in this country had that happen. I'm for reparations, right? Remember that? All it was, I ain't for reparations, and right? You see, something happened, y'all. And then George Floyd happened. Now, some would say that was an ops and so forth, but that happened on Memorial Day. Ironically, Memorial Day is a day that Black Americans created. It was us going back and getting our ancestors who they killed when they surrendered, and they killed them. And our people said, can we go retrieve the bodies? And it was through that procession that created the original of that Memorial holiday, the Memorial Day. It was we created that. And then they, as usual, put their flag on and they take it, and now suddenly that is theirs, right? So when we go back and go give that honor and glory back to that and calling them back, something happened, y'all. Take heed to that. So again, you got a message before we get up out of here. We Boogie says, do you weaponize foreign melanation again against an American melanation? Traditional position rendered to us have been outsourced to Caribbeans and African immigrants. 100. Beginning my show, start off with that. Again, I'm not divisive. I don't hate people from the Caribbean and the African continent. I don't hate you. But I know that immigration was used to undermine us. It's here as a hindrance to us. I understand y'all position and what y'all go through and what y'all try to establish, and you see this as a place of opportunity. But like I said in my analogy, is the original adopted children have been living with Satan and missed Satan way longer. And if we say it, if you don't agree to what we saying or don't understand or try to say, no, you believe the stereotypes, and then y'all want to say it and cry loud and try to tell us like Vivek Ramaswamy, right? And people like that get in here and try to say things towards us. It's only right for us to defend and say, you don't have the right to be coming up in our house talking crazy to us. If you're here to get what you get that and shut up. Now, some people believe in allyship. Now, if you're gonna be allies, that's cool. I'm not against that, but I'm not for those who speak against us, because whatever you think you're getting, however you getting it, you got it off the backs of what me and my people have created, built, made, and this is our land. Now, you could take it, smoke it in a pipe, or you could disagree with it. Benjamin had a phone, I'm gonna have you people come in and call. That'd be all fine with me, but that's just what it is. And something took over this place, that something had to change. They got to drop the bottom out to revamp it, because otherwise, the greatest case in the world that is a guaranteed win, Black Americans for reparation. Again, this is the most hated show in the Black corner of the internet. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming here. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, share, comment. Love to see y'all again. We Boogie, I want to give hats off to him. Who else in here commented? Matter of fact, that put that up there. Who else commented? Put all the people who commented up here. Right. We Boogie commented. We had Brother D commented and aspiring to know. Right. And everybody else who met passed by and gave me the likes and thumbs up. I appreciate all of y'all again. If I don't come on every day, which I'm trying to come on, I'm gonna at least come on once a week. If anything, it's gonna be Sunday or Friday if I come on. So if you're looking for me, you got nothing to do, look for Friday and Sunday. See your brother, Mr. Blow Your Minds. Until the next show, y'all. Until the next show.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy. Remember,